worried about it. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Been a little while, and well, let's just say I did a lot of server work, server configuration, some pumping out some websites for some customers, created a new email server, and well, adapted a bunch of other servers. We've completely moved off of Windows on all the hosted servers, so we're on Linux on everything now. Pretty cool. And yeah, in general, just kicking butt on server configurations and moving forward on all that stuff. So today, here's the plan. Years ago, one of the main features that I had available through doing all this stuff was I actually set it up so that you could bring open a community scene, a building or a thing, and then you could share them back to the main hub server. And then others can search for items that they're looking for and basically click on it and download it and use it in their scenes, and they get a copy of it. So basically it becomes completely theirs, to do what they wish from there on out. So the thing was, when I added in all the ability to do 3D objects, such as the Blender, creations, models, 3D models, and all this other stuff, I never added that piece to the code. Also, when I went open source with it, before open source, I was hosting everything on one server. So when I told it to share, all I had to do is copy from one database to another on the same server. So I temporarily, which has been about 6 months now, or maybe longer, but temporarily disabled the button to be able to share items so that I could go back in and work on that so that you can have a remote location and you can tell it to share something, it sends it back to my server, and then others can search and find them and download them and work them from there. So you got it. So the idea is to bring that back and get it back into place so that we can start working with these various items and stuff. So without further ado, here we go. Okay, let's go to code page and let's see what we got. Okay, so first thing is, that was interesting, sound words. Okay, so first thing we have is I'm just in the scene. It's very basic. All I did was open up a thing, 3D thing, selected from my list, and I opened up a light post. I'm starting here because this one's actually very simplified of what we're going to do. So I wanted to, let's see what that is. No, it's okay. That's something else. Not going to worry about that for the moment. Bad request. Wait a minute. Okay, that's something different. I'm not going to worry about that right this minute. Let's just refresh the page and see if we make sure everything's working smooth. But what we're doing is it's actually going to take and add a button into options and settings, and from there it's going to trigger the process to share the item that's currently in your view. Okay, so it kind of starts also with the snapshot. I want to make sure the snapshot's working. So we have this in our view. We can move it to whatever position we like. Got to remember your avatar's in there too. You know what you can do is you can back up and you can click this button so it doesn't show your avatar, and then so that kind of toggles it back and forth. And now since I got the light on, I might as well tell it to do. There's a little extra something there. Don't even know what that is. Actually, I do know what it is, but not sure why it's there. We'll worry about that in a minute. But set default snapshot. It's not exactly on the agenda today, but that's no big deal. That was an interesting piece. Okay, and see, it updates the picture, and now you've got it with the light on. So you can tell it, you can even, make sure you center it or whatever you want to do. And set the default snapshot. And there we go. And done. Okay, so we're going to add a button into this area here, and it's going to be to share this 3D thing. And then we're going to go through the whole process, working it from one end to the other. Hey, how's it going? Hey, Owen. I gotta get my volume check here. What's that? Oh. Well, I think I'm playing sounds okay. I don't think that's so much the issue. I have my own, the sound of the volume of the music in my head. Just need to make it background music and not so foreground. Okay, chill step is turn back a little touch. Okay, so we've got this object, and we're going to go ahead and go through the steps and see if we can't share it out and run the whole steps for processing it. It involves two websites. This one is the course site that we're working on the code that goes out to GitHub, and then I have another website that runs the hub that receives the information, scrubs it, checks it for everybody, and then pushes it out there so that you can download the approved items and stuff. So, okay, going on here. You don't hear me? Let's see, my sound looks to be turned up all the way, looks to be good there. I don't know, I can turn it up just a touch. Yeah. Checking the actual window of the thing to see if it's turned on there or not. Yeah. Hey Owen, doing a sound check, can you hear me okay? Oh, okay. Good deal. Yeah, mine's turned up all the way, or pretty sharp here, so. How about that? Is it my own sound things that are kind of turned down? I don't know, he didn't answer. So, well, I even typed it and he didn't answer, so I said hey man, but he didn't. Yeah, I don't know, we'll find out. Oh, okay, good deal. Okay, so moving forward, let's see what do we got here. Get a little echo going. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is in the admin menu, there's a spot where we had this in here, and let's see if it's still there or if I completely deleted it. It should be. Let me find out where I'm at here. Okay. The easiest way to do this is this. If I say, yeah, all good? Okay, cool deal, cool deal. Where I say copy thing, let's find out where that is. And it's this word right there. Okay, front files, boom, boom, boom. Okay, let's get us our starting point. I know some of these are in here, some of these are forms after you go here, so I just got to get to the right page of where that particular item is being referenced. Okay, so it's created using our menu options, code behind, and I've got it wrapping right now. I don't really need it wrapping necessarily, but that's okay. Okay, so the menu item is here. There it is. Copy share. I had marked it out, told it not to use it right now. And okay, so let's start by remarking it back in, and then based on this item, should be this word is the keyword. I'm just going to find the process and see if we can't track down a couple of the pieces and get them ready. We don't need. Okay. So we've got this word, and here's where we tell it to process it. Open share thing form. Now that's basically a menu option that just says, okay, here's the share thing form. So let's go ahead and put that in there. I'm working from remote here, so let's go to core files, and what am I in? Admin menus. That's functions. Let's go core. I'm just getting these FTP here in the same area. Let's just upload the functions folder. It's easier than just cherry picking files. I'll just copy that, overwrite it. We're good to go. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is refresh the page, and I want to see it pop up the form and see what we have on the form. Go back to console for now. Open that, and there's our share item. We'll change some wording on that. Okay, here we go. We have the default snapshot, so we show everybody what that is. There's some template names and different pieces you can fill out and decide how you want to share it, and then you click that button, which is going to take us to the next step. Looks like it almost fits on this screen. I guess that's something we can work on in the layout here. And it's kind of easy to read right now. There's some gaps here and spaces we can kind of consume a little bit on that form. Going through all the steps here. Okay, so open thing form. Find. It would be share template. No, that's. Before I do that, one of the things I noticed was it says share. I want to make it share 3D thing and kind of just match all the other wording on the page. So we'll save that, and then I'm going to go back to here. Okay, we have share thing form. It tells it to do this, and this is the file, the process that it runs, which is in our admin scripts. I know exactly where it's going to be, but let's just open it up this way anyway. Okay, so there's the function that it's pulling, and it's in our admin things. Pretty self-explanatory on that. Tells it what to do, what to show, and where to show it. This is I'm just getting oriented here of all the different little pieces that this is bringing up. There's going to be a thing form, which is going to be in our forms folder over here. In fact, I'm pretty confident it is things share. And there's the thing. So, okay, so, oh, it looks like we did have a third line break on each one of these. Two of them pretty much cuts it. We don't need a third one. And that one doesn't. That'll give us just enough space that on a normal screen I don't think we'll have to worry about a don't have to worry about the scroll bar. Okay, so that's the form we're working with, and when we click the button, which set default fan, thing snapshot. So it's right after this piece. So, like I said, I'm backtracking all the different pieces. I'm just loading, opening up all the screens that are part of what we're working off right now. Hey, Bird fan, how's it going? Okay, so from here, this is where it's running it, and here is the actual button that tells it share thing as template. So when we press that, it does this, but it's using this name. And finally, an admin menus file, it's going to tell us exactly where that piece is, which is case this. And open confirmation box. Okay, so we're going to get a confirmation before it goes any farther. So let's go ahead and take functions, forms, upload those. Just because I made some modest changes, I spaced this out different. So I'm going to go ahead and just reload this. See if we fix the first couple things here that I noticed. First one is share 3D thing. So if we click that, now it says that. Now it fits on one page just barely, but it doesn't have a scroll bar for a normal size screen, kind of like that. Okay, so we're going to name this what we want. Street lamp, for example. Wrought iron, or whatever we want to call it. Wrought iron street lamp, made in Blender 2.8. I'll just put that on there for now. We could put more description if you want. Search terms, street lamp, light post. Any keyword that you think is going to attract attention or somebody's going to search for, you can put any search terms you want in here that you want to receive this. But I do suggest that they actually really have something to do with the item that you're doing, so that we don't, convolute the whole database of, you type in one word and you're just trying to advertise your items regardless of what they are. Make them actually fit the items. Otherwise, I'm going to not approve them. So this is going to go through an approval process. We're going to test and check the items before we actually release them to the public. So yeah. So make sure you get those pieces in there and do that. Say light post, fence. Helps if I can spell this morning. Fences with a C. Planter. I don't know. Is there any other thing I should say about it? Nah, it's pretty cool. Okay. Nice to be streaming this week too sometime. Oh, cool. Look forward to it. Okay, so you've already done an extra snapshot just to make sure that it's your current picture and you like the way it lays out and everything else. You type in all your extra stuff, and I know this stuff is going to get saved when I click this share 3D thing as template. I believe I told it to save it, but notice this is where we got the process. So this is where it's actually going to trigger it. I may have to type this 2 or 3 more times before we get to that stage, but for now, Oh, that's interesting. The background there behind those edges is a square. That's interesting. We'll have to round those corners. I mean, pay attention to detail, right? If I say cancel, it kills this off. If I say share my 3D thing, it goes through the process. Now, I already know it's not going to work because I've already cut out the code that does what it does after this effect. But I just want to make sure all those pieces were working before I move on to the next part. This right here, is it this one? Let's get this in here. It's confirmation form. It's class pop-up form. Okay, WTW pop-up form. Let's fix that because I just need to round the top two corners. That'll be off our list then. It's nice to knock things off the list as we go. Okay, here's where it has it. And what I need to do is we rounded the corners up. Let's say border. What is the darn words? I can't think. Border. Oh yeah, border, top, left, radius. I think I got that right. Border, top, left, radius, and I think it's just 10px. We're going to find out if that's even close to looking right as we go, and we're going to do the top right also. Okay, we'll give those a shot and see if that matches the design. I'm not going to bother refreshing it just for that 2 seconds of of adjustment, but we're going to upload that and see what happens with it. Okay, and the next piece I want to do is, so we've got this button here, and when we tell it we confirm and we go into this, it's that button confirm, and it's going to complete confirmation. Copy that, and if I'm not mistaken, it's part of admin menus. I don't know. Find. Don't need all that. Okay, completed confirmation. I need this equals find all. That'll give us the function. And that's where it's actually going to tell us what function it's going to run, and then we're going to start looking at that function and making sure all the various pieces are in place. So the function comes in here and it says confirm, those are delete confirms, confirm share building, confirm, delete, complete, okay, here it is. Confirm share 3D thing, it's case number 7, I do remember seeing that. Here's the wording that it shows on that confirmation box, and it tells it when it does it, run share thing template. This is the process we're looking for. Okay, finding files. This is the one that actually triggers and tells it to share the item. Now, just so you know, here's the concept. You have the item, we know what it is, we've already taken our picture of it and everything else in our default snapshot, everything looks the way we want it to be, we've added in our information in the form. When you click the button to share, what it's going to do is it's actually going to create a encoded value or something, encrypted, encoded, we'll figure out something. We'll create a random code, and we're going to send it with the item's ID, send it to the server, then the server itself is going to fetch the object off the server. So that's the process, but it has to go back to the server that it originated from, and yeah, we're going to do some things on that part of it. And then it's going to fetch all the components, and it's actually going to save them onto the server, and it's going to do some renumbering as necessary or whatever. We're gonna track the whole process and record exactly where it came from. If somebody tries to send us crap one time, like with a virus or something, then we'll blackball them until proven otherwise. We got all kinds of stuff that's going to go into this mix. So a lot of security measures. We're going to run it through virus check. We're going to do everything we can on our side to make sure that files that are uploaded to our servers are basically safe. And we're going to do some confirmation on the actual data. If there's anything else transmitted with it, it won't go. We're gonna make sure that what you get is a legit item and its descriptions and all of its pieces. So you're never actually going to download exactly what was sent up there. It's going to be scrubbed, put into the databases on the server, and then the files downloaded are going to be just the scrub versions only if they've been approved. So you're not even going to see it if it wasn't approved. So that's kind of the process in a nutshell of what it's going to do. And here we go. We have the template name, description, and the tags. Okay, so we're sending everything we want to this function. The first thing it does is, whoa, this is not the way we do things anymore. So yes, we're starting right here. Wow, this was actually calling a stored procedure on the server, which we do not even run anymore. So, like I said, oh no, this is, I'm sorry. We don't do that. We don't do store procedures anymore, so I got to rewrite that piece, but there's more to it than that. Basically, we're not even doing a store procedure. We're going to make a call that actually goes out to the other server and triggers it and tells it which item to pull. So we're changing this. We're not even running this process here. So that's on PHP, by the way, and what I'm looking for is the share template. There it is. This is the one I was looking at. So we request the item, it runs the function, and here's the function that does it. Closes the confirmation box, which we expect. Save share thing form. Where's that? It's right above us. So there's the save share thing form. And oh yeah, so it will save the items that we have on the form, and basically that gets written to the database so that if you open the share form again, it'll already be filled out with those items that we typed in there. And then it's going to go to the template server. That's not where it's going to go, so that's going to fail right now, and I'm not worried about that. That's not even on this server anymore, so that's going to fail. And this is the part where we start creating the new. So we will do some things. I'm gonna make the call happen from the PHP side, not the not this JavaScript side. And the reason is because I'm going to append the session logged in user to the call so that nobody can just do some JavaScript on the end and make it do it. It has to be the logged in user that actually shared an item on the server. So we're going to do some checks. This isn't where we're going to run it, but we do run the share thing form, so that'll save the file locally. And when it finishes doing that, we could just append it to there. Since we're already going back to the server and we're telling it to share, we could actually make the call to tell it what to share right from the PHP side. So I'm actually going to remove this piece here. Okay, we're not doing any of that anymore. And the share thing form is going to run this process, and when it finishes, it goes here. That's when we're going to tell it to basically say something and let it know that the server, it has been shared and whatever else, blah, 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 blah. So this is where it's going to update the process. If we look on our share thing form, one of the things we can do to know we got to that process is the share thing form has share thing response. This is a little place where it's going to tell us exactly what's going on. So for now, I'm going to do dget, which is this item, and it'll be inner HTML equals, and the only thing we're going to say is we should say something like 3D thing. 3D thing has been shared successfully. Sounds reasonable, but one thing I'm going to do is if I do a set timeout function, if I do it this way, let's give it 5 seconds. Oh, actually I'm putting that in place. I'm going to put it right here. I'm going to give it 5 seconds where it's showing that message on the screen, and then I'm going to make it disappear. So if you shared it twice, it actually does it twice, and you'll know the message clears each time and stuff. So that's just my little cleanup there. So we're going to tell it to do that. That looks all good. Now this process here is going to tell it to share thing template, which goes back to share thing template, which in this case calls a, yeah, this isn't how we're going to do it. That isn't one of them either. This is how we're going to do it. This is more the appropriate way now. We're writing this process over again. It's got the handlers in here. Notice we had a connection string in here. We had, okay. The only thing I'm actually caring about is that HTML special characters and the session. We're going to get the current user session. So those pieces are the same. The rest of this is not going to be okayed. There's a couple things I'm going to do. First thing is only certain people are going to be able to do this process. You can't share something if you don't have author right to it. So let me back up here to like delete things. I check admin access before you delete things. So I'm going to do the same thing here with the with passing the item to it, and we'll check this. We'll do the next process afterwards. Let's go over here. Good thing is we have a lot of examples of how we do things. Share thing template, and we're going to say if handlers of this item, that isn't how we're going to call it. So that is gone. Thing ID, there's that. Okay, so it's going to check admin access, make sure the user has admin access, and then we're going to find out what that user is, find out the templates. Let's also create a random value that we're gonna use a random value, and we're gonna make sure that the server has granted permission for us to get it. So it's going to be a handshaking kind of thing. So this will be, it's in the handlers, and it's get random string, and that will be, let's go 16 type 1. That should get us what we want. Okay. Then what we want to do, let's look in. Let me get our database open here. No, that's not I got two things here. Let me copy that and put that in. Got to do a little house cleaning on the other side before I bring the screen over. Open up some of the right windows and close out some of the other ones. So let's just do that real quick. Okay, that'll do it. Close that. That part doesn't matter right now. Close that. Ow, my fault. Close program. Okay. Okay, so what I have here is this. This error log, don't worry about that right now. In the things table, let's first look at this. What do we have? This thing name. Okay, so template name, tags, description. Those are the fields that we're doing. There's the snapshot reference, the shared user ID. Shared hash, share hash. We got the share hash. And I did start down this process once before, and the date you shared it. So we got a little bit of information that we can work with, and we're going to do it. We're going to tell it to update in this directory. Let's see. I want to see what the actual structure is, just to make sure we did this a good way to begin with. The share hash is 255. Okay, we can do anything we want there. And I think we're good on all the rest of that. Looks good to me. Okay, so gonna take. Notice none of these items have been shared, so that's where we're starting. We're starting right there. So the first thing I'm going to do is we've got our random 16. It could be whatever number of characters we need it to be. We know the thing ID that we're trying to share. We already know the data that we're going to share with it about it, to talk about it. So the first thing we're going to do is save this to the database. So in the same way that you're going to see, I did this a few times. Well, first of all, if it's this far, I'm pretty certain that we already have it in the database, because if we didn't, you wouldn't have been able to load the thing in the first place, and all this other stuff. But I like confirming anyway, so we're going to do something. I know this is not exactly what I'm going to do, but I'm going to copy that just so that I have a little bit of our formatting stuff that we're doing, and I don't have to do it all off the top of my head, and you don't have to sit there and wait and watch me type, right? Okay, so first thing is we're going to do a query, and we're going to select, I don't care about that, select, what field do I want? Select thing ID from this table, things, and where thing ID equals z thing ID, limit 1, and I just want to see if we actually find one. So let's add a field here, z found, thing ID equals blank. I know, consistency, since I did it with double, I'll do it with double there. Okay, so I'm checking to see if this value is there. We'll put this in here, and it will be the row thing ID. So then if this found thing ID has a value, then we know that it found it already in the table, and that's just kind of a confirmation of us. We already know that we have access to it, so I don't have to recheck that at this point. When it does this process, it actually uses our session logged in variables, so that all ties that down in a nice pretty knot. Okay, special characters already handled in all those items. Random string is created. So the first thing we're going to do is find out if it exists. Then basically here we'll go if not empty and is set. We're going to do a function like that, and it's going to basically tell us if we're doing an update or an insert. I really don't see a need for an insert. It pretty much needs to find it. So you know what, actually I'm not going to do both terms of it. I'm just going to do one. We're only going to do an update statement. It either finds it or we're not playing the game of trying to add one at this point. This isn't where you would typically add one, so I'm not going to let that be the deciding factor at this point. It either found it and it confirms that it finds it, or we're not going to go there. Okay, so found, and it's not empty, and it is set, means that it found the thing ID that we're trying to update. And then we're going to update things. We're going to set, first of all, whatever reason, if it was deleted, we're not going to be deleted. I don't think we need any of that right now. I'll come back to that in a second. The first parts we're going to do is, if you look at the table, we have the fields template name. See that you can have a thing name that you use for your private use, but when you share it, the template name is how you're distributing it out to everybody else. So we'll go with template name. Template name equals, and we're gonna do my little thing there, and that's going to be this template name here. I'm just confirming the names as I go because it's been a long time since I've been in this code. So this part, we have template name, and the next field is the tags, description. We don't have to worry about shot ID, that's already handled another way. So tags and description. Tags equal this value right here. And description equals, and yes, I know I can do I don't have to put the double quote and the periods around it to be able to insert a thing in there, but you know what, old habits are hard to break. So I know some people are probably looking at the screen right now screaming, don't do all the extra code. Well, you know what, I've been doing it since day one, so didn't hurt anything and it still works, so I'm not gonna it's a habit I can't break. Okay, so the next one is going to be the basically what we're calling the, well, we have share user ID, but we'll get to that. Share hash. The share hash equals, and this one, there's a purpose for doing this the way I'm doing it, is there's going to be a deadline of how quick you can even do this. I don't want to leave the door open if somebody starts to do something and it fails. I want it to, time's out, and it makes it where you have to do it again anyway. But let's get the basics in place, then we'll put some more of the security measures in place. Okay, share hash, then we have share user ID equals, and I'm also going to get rid of those for now. And that will be, the user ID is this user ID that we pulled directly from the session. Okay, so we have these values, they're updating, where thing ID equals this. We don't have to worry about that. You know, the other piece I like to do, where that equals that, and I like doing limit one because I know I'm only updating one record. Whenever that's the case, I like doing that. That makes it even harder for like SQL injection and different stuff like that into the databases. I know that doing open source code, there's every chance of everybody trying to hack everything there is. But at the same time, as long as I do my due diligence, then it's as protected as much as I can think of. So, okay, so we brought this stuff in. We've written all these values here. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to tell it, after it wrote this value in, then we're going to tell it to go out to the other server, and we're going to call a page that tells it, this is what we want to share, and here's your key value that you want to use. So let's look at here. I think I had some of this in place before. So this is the page I'm calling. It has the thing ID, the user ID. I'm going to add, I don't even know why I had this value here. We're going to do all kinds of cleanup on this stuff because I'm not even using this stored procedure at this point. Or maybe I am. Yeah, on my server I can use them, it doesn't matter. I'm not distributing that code, so. Okay, what I want to do is we're going to change this whole process though, because we're actually not, we're actually going to be pulling the information from the other server and then writing it locally here. So if it doesn't even find it, we're not going to write anything. This is kind of a, yeah, we'll get this. The origin of the header, we're going to, yeah. I got some things to check there. We're going to add some security afterwards, but I'm not going to worry about it just yet. It's going to be the domain that comes to it is going to be the domain. It has to be referred from that domain, and then it only returns back to that. There's going to be some extra security measures added to that. But for the moment, what I'm going to do is we have thing ID. Let's go with my normal naming scheme. Z thing ID, Z user ID. I don't even know what thing new is, so I'm going to get rid of that. And we'll call it Z. This would be the share hash. Okay, we're just reading in these values. Thing ID, user ID. We'll add one more. Same format. And this will be we can call it share hash. That sounds good to me. So that'll be there, and share hash here. So that'll read in the query string. That's basically all that little bit of code does. This allows us access to this page from outside through scripting, which is no problem. And the rest of this for now, we're going to have to, we want to see if we even get this far. There's no reason to take this piece yet. I want to get the string that it sends, and I'm not going to time it out at this point with the share hash, but I want to get that value, and then I can start working it where I just have to refresh the page instead of going through the process of filling it out and clicking the button and doing all that stuff every time. So let's take it that far. Then we'll start working on this page more after the fact. Okay, that's all good. Yeah. Okay, so we're expecting that when I save that, it's going to actually save the item that I'm working on, which is it's a street lamp. So it's this item right here. Just to simplify things, we'll take copy field. Where thing ID equals that. Just to simplify it, now what I do? I copy that field. Okay, maybe I typed something wrong. It's this one I copied the wrong thing. Copy field encoded. Okay. Okay, so that'll give us the one value. This is the one we're expecting to update. We're going to update these values here, and I just want to see that part happen. So let's go over here and update. Well, we got the core. We got core on this side. Let's just make sure we catch any changes we made. Let's do that. And I updated a piece in the script, so I'm going to grab that too. Only takes a couple seconds, that's why I did them all. I just want to make sure I'm on the same page with what's going on here. And if I go to admin folder, I'll just copy. You know what? I can just back up a directory. Sometimes it's easier to just copy the folder instead of each individual cherry picking which ones to do. Okay, so since we just rewrote that process, we already know that isn't going to work from there. Cancel works. That's a good sign. Excuse me. Okay. No, it's not COVID. I've been doing so many. I have so many. Fans around the room. I'm blowing dust around the room, right? Open the window and dust comes in, right? Okay, so I can't save these things, so I'm just gonna have to do them again. Let's refresh the page. And we'll do the console so we can see if there's any errors along the way. Okay, and load up the page. There it is. Options and settings, share 3D thing. Loads up the form, no problem. We'll put that in there. Wrought iron. By the way, commas don't even matter in this part down here. It uses words, so like keyword search. So as long as the words are there, it'll find them and use them. So like once you put the word lamp, if somebody searches for lamp, they're going to find it. Light, street light. I already put wrought iron. Don't have to do that type. Fence. It's got a fence around it, so I'll put that on there. Platform. Whatever. Okay, so then share thing as template goes in here. Share my 3D thing, and what I'd expect is we got an error. Let's see what it is. It's checking the JSON that came back after the call. No problem. I probably didn't tell it to return any JSON, so that's probably the extent of what went wrong there. But let's see. No, it didn't update here either. Okay, so we got something else going on. Let's check the values and see if we can't track down how far it's getting. So when we, that would have helped. Save the files. That definitely has some effect on it. This should have said this stuff, and response. See, it was expecting a response from that process to share thing template. So I want to go into the class. That part. Actually, it's the handler for the things. The handler for the things is what it's calling when we run the JavaScript. It reads in the values. Here's our description, tags, and is the name even being read? Thing name. No, we are not reading the value. Okay, well, that's a good reason why that piece would come up blank. Share thing template, thing ID, thing name, description, and tags. So it's using the original thing name. We don't want the original thing name. We want it to be this, or did I set it on the JavaScript? So let me double check. The JavaScript being passed in thing name is the shared thing name. Okay, we're using that field, but it's not typically what the field has more than one meaning, so we don't have a problem with that. Okay, so we have those values. They're being passed in right here. We send a response, but it's actually blank at the moment. We could modify the response if we decide to actually be, thing ID if we want. Oh, the other part we should return back is, since the random value, no, we don't need the value. No, actually, thing ID just to do something back, but we actually don't need any of that. We could send back an error message if there's an error while doing this file. So that stuff we'll add in later on. That's all, catches other issues. This should run in there. This should automatically run that process. Biggest part was I didn't save it before I uploaded those files to the site, so that would have definitely tripped us up. I'm going to go back to core here, and it's the functions. And I just checked the headers, so I'll change that file too. And now we should be able to okay. Here we go again. Refresh the page, get the latest code. Options and settings. I'll let it finish loading. Not that it'll actually matter, because it's all running from database entries anyway. So let's say yeah, that's good enough for now. Okay, so we have that. Share that out there and save it. Reason is, once this goes in here and saves, then it's going to actually save the item. Okay. There was no errors that time. Let's see if we have it in our database. Okay, there we go. Now we have the values in there, and that also is a double-sided sword, because now when we tell it to refresh this page, the good part is it will actually already have those values in there, and I won't have to retype them every time. So if I say share thing template, it has those values. Yay! pulled them from the database, and we're good to go. Okay, so the next part is when we tell it to share, we need it to kick out the code and actually go to the other server. So let's teach it what to do. Okay, so we did this process and we got it back. The function's right here. So we saved the file, and then I'm only going to do this if we found it. So it's going to be in this section. I'm not going to process something if it wasn't in the database. So the next part is going to be making a call, which I've done a few times. There's actually wget or curl, which I think let's see, which one did I use the most? I think I used curl in a few places here. Let me see what I did. If this is available, then I use the get file contents. Otherwise, I use the curl, and that way I at least have two different methods where it's trying to call it. Because when you're dealing with open source and you're getting whatever they send, it would be a good idea to have more than one method in case the server's set up different ways, especially if you're getting it hosted somewhere. So I'm going to put these two files here. We'll worry about what this all says here in a second. We don't need to change mod on that. We don't need to change mod on success. I don't need to put a file here because I'm not actually retrieving it. I'm basically just doing the call. So I need to do the call, and it closes the file at the end, which is good. Does the get file, curling in. Okay, so that's going to cause it to do the file. And from URL, that's the only piece I need to set. So let's go figure out what we're going to call here. Copy that. I'm going to say from URL equals .3dnet.web.com/connect. And this is going to be share thing.php, I believe. What did we have on the other page? It is share thing template PHP. Okay. Guess I could rename that since I'm redoing these anyway. Share thing would be pretty much, or thing share thing. It's pretty much same. I'm going to rename it. It's not being used by anything else, and if it was broken anyway, so I'm going to call it thing share. Save that file. How's everyone out there doing? Yeah. Get these things so we can actually share items back to the server and actually search and find them and download them so that you can use different items in your site. So the idea behind this whole process that I'm working on, just to kind of catch you up if you haven't watched since the beginning here, is I have certain items, and this was actually built in Blender 2.8. I added it into my scene, working on the item, and I can tell it to make it a thing. I uploaded the item into here. I added it into the wrapping of a thing, 3D thing. I also have 3D buildings and communities, which are your scenes. And then once you get it in this format here, you're able to share the item if you decide, hey, it's something I want to throw into the main library everybody can use. And it's a way of getting your name out there. So if you're a developer and you want to create things for other people, it's a way of getting your name out there that, hey, look, I make things out of Blender and I can put them out there and I can create you a cool game scene, or I can create you cool tools to use in your games, or vehicles or boats, or whatever you want to do. You can create the different items and share them out there. Get your name known. Then you can also tell people, hey, if you like this, go check out my full library and there's items to purchase, and you can make money as a programmer. So that's kind of the concept behind it. But this will be something that I'm going to share for free. So you click on Share Thing, and basically all I have to do is type in some information like what do I want to call it, what's the description, what categories would somebody search for to find that item. Here's a default snapshot, which takes it right from your scene, and then share this thing as a template. And when you do, share this thing, boom, it's out there. Wow, it's shared successfully. That is the wrong place for that. Okay, no problem, we'll fix that. It'll be after you do this step. So no problem, we'll get that in place. Okay, so that's the process, that's the piece we're working on and how we're getting it all together. So now where I'm at right now in the code is I'm telling it if you call this particular file, it's going to tell my server this is the item I'm trying to share. And then my server at the main hub of Walktheweb is actually going to go out to your server with the proper permissions, and it's going to say, give me all this information, and let me download this item from your server to be shared. So that's pretty much where it's going. Okay, so the item we want to do is we're going to say thing ID equals, and that will be dot z thing ID, and the next piece will be we have user ID. All I want to know is the basics. Who's sending me something? So if I've already banned the user or something else, I can definitely work with that. We'll know some additional information as it goes across, but that's the basics of it. User ID. And then we have, let's see, this would be share hash. And that will be z random. And is that really what I want to do? Is that everything? I'm going to derive where this ID, where this came from, where the request came from, and where it's actually going to try to browse to. And basically, it's going to have all kinds of checks in place. So don't worry about that today. That's not exactly where we're at, so I'm not going to worry about that too much. But the one thing I want to do here is I'm gonna find out what this sentence is, by the way, what this from URL is, so that I can test the URL and see if it's actually getting back to the server. So we're gonna dump that in the database, and we're gonna see if it actually makes the call to the other server. I'm not worried about what it returns. We're not even caring at this point if it returns. I'm going to check it from the other side to see if it actually gets the hit. So we'll find out. That's a nice secure line. That's where it's going. This is the information it's sending and telling it that it wants to share. And then we'll be able to pull the rest of the data from there. Okay, so based on that, okay, by making the call. I want to see that this gets written into the database, and then I'm going to be able to bring up that by itself afterwards. So we're going to upload those functions. Did I change anything else while we're at it? Nope, I didn't. That won't open anymore. Okay, so let's refresh this page. May or may not needed to do that, but it's fine. It's going to update the hash each time I click this button, just so you know. But we're going to get that. Share thing is template. Share my 3D thing. It should have made the call to the other server. And we're going to check in the database under this and see, yeah, it recorded the part right there. So I'm going to click this, go here, and just see. Okay, that should be correct. Oh, I didn't even upload that page to the other server. That's an interesting... was there already a thing share? No, we got things share because I renamed it here, but I didn't rename it on the server yet. There must be one already at that location on the server. Let's find out. And if I go to 3D Net Walktheweb, connect. And it's things share template. It's not things share. That's interesting. Oh, it must be a default page that it's set to fall back on if nothing else is found. Because that would not make sense that I just had this page and there's nothing there. For now, the response of the JSON, there is no JSON to respond to encode, so it should have been a blank page, by the way. So if I do this and I say actually, that's not even the right notation. I'm going to remark out the JSON for a moment, and I'm going to go ahead and just echo thing ID. I just want to see that it's actually hitting this page, by the way. And share hash and user ID. Okay. And let's see if this page actually comes through and it's finding this page or not. And it is thing share, thing ID. There it is. Okay, so we are hitting this page. Oh, it's funny. It's not running it's not running HTML, but that's fine. We already see what it is. That's not an issue. Okay, so we're getting there, and we have this information coming through. We already know it's going to be a valid check, so we're going to build the second half of it from here. The first part is I'm just putting together a couple pieces here. Thing ID, and that will be, we're going to switch it over and use this format. And good news is we've already proved that these three values made it there. And as you can see here, oh, come on, did it update? No, it didn't. I saved it. Response should have been, oh, I forgot this. There we go, and we no longer need those in place. Just making sure we're actually working with something here that we can do. Okay, upload that, and just kind of walk it through. There we go. Okay, now we're getting the right formatted, and we've got the nice numbers there. First thing I'm going to do is, from my server side of things, I'm going to tell it to go get certain data. So there's going to be a list of different items we're going to collect, and then we're going to we're gonna piece back together the thing with all of its various parts. So the first thing we want to do is we're gonna start grabbing the various parts of a 3D thing. I'm just gonna leave this in here just so that we have something that gets returned. It'll help us see if we got an error or anything, because it'll have to get to that point of code. So first is, if I do just like I did on this other side, I already know my server has wget allowed, so I'm not going to worry about that, but I am going to do data. How am I going to read this data? Okay, so this is the command I need. Kind of doing this as I go. Let's see. This is going to be, we're going to do a series of different pieces. And the first one we're going to do, let me start making some notes in here because it'll be helpful for later. Get 3D thing. And that's going to be the main part of the table. So I'm going to say this ZURL, I'll just call it thing. Thing equals, and this has to go back to the server that it came from. So what I need to do is we're going to need to know where it was called from. Yeah, let's do a quick search. Okay, let's see. It's I believe this is going to give us what we need. Because if it's not right, I'm not trusting the source anyway. So that's kind of the theory and how I'm going to do this. Let's figure out if I'm first of all getting the server where it's coming from. Let me write that out for a second. So in this area here, we're going to say Z equals, and then I'm going to add it to here. I just want to know that I'm getting the right place. Okay, let's see what we get. I'm walking through this. We'll get it together. The domain was null, so that ain't right. So refer was not the right one. So I know I asked for refer and it gave me refer. So let me ask a better question. Get request domain using PHP. That'll be it. Let's see. We get the host or server name is going to be mine. Oh, it's the page that called it. Refer wasn't because I didn't refer it from the site. I tried to call it directly. That is actually correct. That is actually correct. I need to check it a different way and just know. For now, I understand what that's going to cause, but I'm going to, for now, I'm going to add the domain as part of the query string, which will be changed security purposes when I get the rest of this in place, because the reason is I want to be able to call the page directly while I'm testing it, because it's going to be a lot of parts and a lot of things I have to do to check it and make it work. So I want to be able to just refresh and call the page without having to go through the whole steps every time. When I'm done doing that, I'll pull this piece back out of place and go ahead and, in fact, I'm going to hard code it. That'll remind me that I have to change it before I can go public. So I'm going to hard code what this is, which is, this particular one is 3d.walktheweb.com. So by knowing that, domain goes through that way, and then here, for now, it is going to be the referring domain, but for now we're going to just pass it, And this will make it where it's easy to test. Okay, because the URL that we need to actually call is going to be based on this Z domain. It's going to be zdomain./connect, and then it's going to be one of these files in the connect folder here. So we're going to be calling different pieces, and we're going to have to modify them to let it check the share part component. Well, there's two ways to do this. I can call one object and just keep adding what I'm sending in that one object and make one call. That actually sounds better. So we're going to create, we have 3D thing already, which is going to be kind of the template. Notice how it doesn't have everything for here. We're going to build one up that actually has all the parts we need. Yeah, this is, yeah, we're gonna do it. I know how I want to do it. We're gonna have one call that grabs all the parts that we need and brings it all in one thing, so we don't have to keep on making all these various calls to the server, picking up just the connecting grids, just the action zones, just the blah 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 blah, right on down the line, all the mold parts, all the points that are part of it. And we're going to grab one thing, it's going to grab everything we need, and then we're going to go ahead and retrieve it from there and tell it what to do. So we're going to be building one heck of a thing share page here in the connect folder. First thing it's going to include is it's going to include the basics. So I'm going to purposely make it a copy of this file. So we're going to need a new file here. All of this to start with. There's going to be a lot more, but this is going to be the basis of it. And we don't need that anymore. So here, let's save it as things share PHP. That's very consistent because we called the share file on that server. Now it's calling the share file in this server to confirm the action of sharing, and it's going to retrieve all the data part with it. Now I have to tell you this. The other part is I just want to know that they really wanted to share the item. We do have processes that will tell it to share. You know, you can pull each individual part and another server can get the information, because that's why we can host from one server to the next. So there's basic information that will be shared between servers, but it's still going to be by your permission of which ones you allow to share. So just so you know, that part is in the works, and it is actually valid to have it do it that way. So two things here. We are going to check the user ID. User ID and the share hash. Now what that'll do is we have these values. We're looking up, select everything from things, where thing is this, it's not deleted, and basically user ID, share user ID equals this user ID. Well, it's going to be okay. I've got a lot of security things I keep thinking of as I go, but we're going to get the piece in place, and then I'm going to lock it down, especially on my server side. What you're doing is not threatening. It's where I'm receiving the data that's more threatening. And then, of course, once I get it and I scrub it, you're receiving it is safer after I've scrubbed the data, so you're going to be in good shape. I just have a lot of work to do on my side, obviously. Okay, and this one is going to be the share hash comes through. We get the item, it connects with it, and now we should be returning these values in this structure. We're going to keep on building onto this as we go, but the first thing I want to do is make sure that it returns this whole thing and it's working. So we need to send the thing, the user ID, and the share hash back this direction. Back to this page. We're going to call, so first of all, we're going to connect thing share.php. And now we're going to go thing ID. Thing ID. And then user ID. And finally, share hash. Just letting it. By the way, we're going to expire that hash, so it's not going to be valid for very long. So it's got to be within that fraction of when they told it they want to share. It has to either go right there, grab the items, and be done with it, or it's already going to expire and it's not going to work. They're not going to be able to get any parts of it through this method. So that's the good part of that. Okay, so the share hash, just make sure, yeah, we got share hash, user ID, and thing ID, passing those back through there. That's the item we're going to call. And then I want, when this goes through, I'm going to make that the response. And it's going to replace this, and it's actually going to show here the whole values of everything that we retrieved from that other JSON file. That's the intent. We'll see if it actually works. I know, you caught me laughing on that one. What works first try, right? Connect, connect, and this is thing share. Upload that. So now we have both the files in both places. Why is it taking a second? There it goes. Okay, both files are in both places. So if I come here and I do this, false. That's funny. Okay, let's do a little bit more than that. Okay, so this part here, get file contents, calling this URL right here. Oh, I forgot. It was false because it wasn't even a URL. You got to go. I know for mine right now it's HTTPS. So let's add that in there. Set. Connect. Thing share. Upload that. Helps if it's a proper URL, right? And nope, still false. Let me give it another try. Nope. Okay, should've, woulda, coulda. Okay, so I'm going to, we're gonna try this and see what we're actually getting and make sure that it's giving us something back from the server. By the way, these guys were nice. They gave us the right answer. Anytime I see that and I use Stack Overflow, I give them credit, and that's what I'm gonna do. And we're gonna open another page. This one is going to be, we're going to grab the values, put them in here, and see that we're actually getting something back from the server. So 3D walktheweb.com. Helps if I type. Okay, walktheweb.com, connect, share. The thing ID that we're working with is this number right here. So we'll put that in here. The user ID, okay, let's see. I should back this up. Nope, we should. Oh, what did I do? Why does it say false? Oh, because it's going off the server. Okay, no problem. This is the one going from here. This is, Okay, so the user ID that we're going with is... It's easy enough. It's this one. Which, by the way, happens to be right here. Yeah, it's the same thing. And we're going to put that here. And the final one is the hash, which random number puts it here. By the way, that changes every time you click that button, so that isn't going to be the same for everybody. And okay, so what did it say? No page was found. What did I miss? 3D Walktheweb, connect, things share, PHP. Things share PHP. Let's put on those servers and connect. Okay, it didn't write it there. Let me find out what's going on. Didn't share. Upload. There it is now. Okay, that'll be the biggest problem, is if the file didn't make it there. And we're getting an empty set. That's not good either. Let's find out why. Check the error log first. No, nothing wrong there. Lead to 0. That's all fine. This should not be an issue. Let's find out what's going on. When I go to this site and I try to pull this file, tracking the page view, not a problem. Share. Domain name connect. Oh, I can't pull that file directly because it's wanting it to know that you're going from your own domain name, which this particular one, we are not going from our own domain name. We are actually going from every site. That would definitely cause a problem. Any site can call this page. Actually, it's not even that. Let's do this right. Oh, now let's do every for now because I'm not on any other site. Once I set these down for the actual site calling it, then that's going to be the only site that can call this file legitimately. And we'll work it from there. So let's find out. Does that make a difference? No, it didn't. What I could do for now, just to make sure I'm doing it right, is put these two headers on here, which are what this other, what this other code generates, by the way. So if I put those in there, I can remark that out. The origin is anywhere, and it's doing that. And this should bring back a value because we do have share user ID and share hash. We're bringing in those values. That should be okay. Well, I guess I could check those values next if this doesn't work. I always got to know what you're getting. Know what to expect, know what you get. Okay, so we're going to tweak that a little bit here. Well, you know what? I'm going to put it in here and just go infinity. I just want to make sure it's reading in the values and we're actually calling what we want. Then we can check the SQL. You know, I'd really be surprised if anything I do works first try. It's not It's not that I don't make mistakes. It's that you just know what to do when there's a mistake and how to troubleshoot it, right? That's what most programmers do. Bounce around until it works, right? Okay, coming in here. And I'm going to find out if those 3 values come back into what I'm doing. So let's try that. Is that even? Yeah, that's the site I'm working on. So let's find out. Okay, so those 3 values are coming there. And the next thing is, I take this, and I'm going to do the code, right? I'm going to check this statement and make sure I didn't do something wrong. And what it's going to be is, first of all, this is WCW underscore, and then I have the thing ID, which we already know is this. And then we have the share user ID, which happens to be right there, but I want to make sure what I'm sending here is correct. So share user ID, it kind of looks good to me. Okay, and not seeing anything wrong with that yet. And the share hash, so these values are coming in. Oops. I'm not yeah, okay. Well, let me find out here in a couple more seconds. I'll know if there's a problem with that. So let's find out. I don't think there's anything wrong with this SQL statement. Let's find out. Nope, we didn't get in line. Okay, so there is something wrong with it. Share hash, share user ID, and thing ID. And delete. Deleted equals 0, which is, oh, delete was, oh, well, it was 0. That is that, so that's not a problem. So let's do it from here. So we got that, and if I add this, and that still finds it, copy that. And that's where it breaks it. So share hash was not correct. Where did it get it? So share hash is, did I copy it? I may have copied it wrong. Let me make sure I'm calling the right one from our code, because that would definitely be an issue from the start. So from here, share hash is what it reads in from there. So there's 2 pieces here. That one. Wow. Oh, wait a minute. Then if that's the case, that would just be the browsing. What did I copied around here. Let's try this. That's the correct one. And there's our file. Okay, feel better about that now. So now from here, no, see, we're still not getting it from here, which is the same share hash, same. Okay, let's walk this. This comes through now, so we know that that line works. And this one, that's the same hash. It's the same user ID. Didn't make any mistakes there. The same part, thing ID. Okay, so let's check. Let's go here. We pulled those, we did this, and response is that. Well, if all else fails, let's try this first. Let me make sure I formatted this line correctly, because if I didn't, that would definitely be an issue. So let's return it as part of the process here. as you can see, if you're new to programming or anything else, basically we whittle it down. We check the values at each point where where we expect them to pass through, and as we do it, we just keep on fixing whatever we see. One of the things, let's see, I had done that. That's fine. This part isn't going to actually do anything. I just need this to be here. And I'm going to remark that out for now. I'll clean it up after the fact when we actually get everything working in case I want to test that again. So let's put that one back up there and move over to this directory right there and take the changes I'm making on this one. I'm going to check that. Oops. Take that off there. That'd make a difference. And put that thing share. By the way, when we get this going and we actually get the things to share, then it's going to be the exact same structure for doing the buildings and the communities. So we're actually going to gain a lot by doing this piece. So yeah, bear with me. We'll get all these in place, and it's going to be a pretty cool process by the time it's done. And that didn't cut it there. Let's see. This one still brings that up. This one. Now, what am I returning? Let me double check what I'm returning here. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Let's leave the response as the other piece first. We'll make the call afterwards and see what it actually does, but let's just do that piece. I want to make sure. Oh, it's blank. My domain name was blank. That explains once again why this piece did not call it. Oh, I forgot. I added it to the code, but I didn't actually type it in here. Okay, so and domain equals walktheweb.com. And there's our values that I expected. Okay, we're making progress. Now if I put that in its place, I don't need to show that URL anymore. This should be here. Now the response coming from this should be everything that we put on the other page. So I'm going to start building up that piece. Once we get the whole set of what we need it to be, then we can start parsing it and telling it what to do over here. And actually have it write it to the databases, scrub the data, write it to the databases, do the whole thing. Okay, so upload that, and now when I refresh this page, this should be, it went back to false. Yeah. Okay, so thing URL, do I still know Z domain? Let's make sure. Gosh. Oh, there's an O in domain. Helps if I don't do a typo. There's the domain. Now let's try it. What's funny is a lot of this stuff, like I said, it's not actually going to be there because it's going to be passed from the item it comes from. So the URL is already going to have that appended, and we're not even going to be interfering with that whole process. It'll be the referring server that gets to set that. And then that's the server it calls back on to be able to pull the data. So it's going to be kind of a two-way street there. But the good news is now we're getting the full thing info. We're getting all the information. We now have the description, the template name. We have the full values of what it does right there. Now, we can start building on this and setting the various pieces that need to travel along. And all we have to do is add them to this piece that it calls over here, and we'll automatically have the results on the tail end of it sent up to the server. Now it's only going to work if everything comes through and it scrubs it the way it specs it to and finds the values legit and everything else. So just sending anything to the server isn't going to do anything. It's going to be very highly scrubbed. Okay, so next piece. We have this, and this areas. I'm going to start adding in different sections here that have to do with, see, that's each row. it's only one row that comes back, just so you know. This is, because this is doing the things ID and we're only doing one. So I'm going to say limit 1. I want to make sure we don't bring back more than one record. No matter what they type there, we only need one record. That's going to be the one record here. So now what I'll do is I'm going to run some different SQL statements, build up different arrays, and then put them in and append it to what gets returned on this part. This is all good. I could make it right here. Yeah, I think I'm going to put it, I think I'm going to do my checks in this area because only if this is good and we return a record am I even going to continue. So there's no reason to run a bunch of SQL statements up here if it's not doing it. So only if it finds the valid value, then it's going to do this, and it's going to format this piece as the end result. We don't even need this response I, because the response is going to be the array of all these pieces. So let me get the, I don't think there was any other reference to the index other than setting it. That was if there's multiple records, then you set the index and you can return an array of values. In this case, the response is the array, and it's this formatted array. So this is what this is our final results right here. So these format each one of the pieces right here for their different layers of values. So thing info is the basics here. This is the share, this is the tags, and it's basically tag name if there is one, and it puts it all in place. Okay, with that said, the next piece is, by the way, when it calls this result, it actually closes the database on the call. So we're returning an array, but we're actually not leaving the database open. So it's a pretty effective way of doing things. Okay, so the next piece I need to do here is, we've already checked the hash, so this isn't even going to go through unless the hash worked, or somebody changes their own server since this is on your side. Okay, now we have, the next thing I'm going to do is, we're going to do another query. In fact, I'm going to start pulling queries from over here. We're going to do this in the correct order. The first one we have is that one. This is doing the connecting grids, but it's checking certain things. Do I need... No, that's pulling... That's too much. Don't need all that data right now. So let's write it. We'll go here. And what we're looking for is connecting grids. So it's in the connecting grids table. And let's put our notes in here as we go. There's going to be two of them that are important to me at this moment. The thing ID is equal to that, delete equals 0, and I'm not going to limit it to 1 because I'm expecting more than 1, but that isn't what we're looking for. It's not the thing ID equals that. It is the, let me show you. Let's get what, let's pull the data so that I can show you exactly what we're getting and make sure we ask it correctly. So there's two pieces here. And when you share a 3D thing or a building or something, remember you're sharing that item. You're not necessarily sharing all the parts within it. So if I put a thing inside of a building, I'm not telling it to share the thing if I share the building. It's a separate step. So we'll handle that separately as we design this and build it. But for now, it's not going to be included because you have not told it you want to share that thing in the building. But we're just doing this on the thing level right now anyway. Okay, so if I take connecting grids, where I'm just testing out the SQL, where parent web ID equals this number, or child web ID equals this number. And there's kind of a reason with my madness here. You have to remember, when it's a child web opposed to a parent web, the parent web means this is its own item. So this one here, where it's the parent pass connecting, parent web ID is web type is blank. This particular one happens to be the root item of itself. So that would be the connecting grid that it uses when you're editing that particular thing. Everything else in the connecting grids are when you've placed it into another object. So if like in this case, this particular object has been placed 3 times into a community, and it appears that it's all the same parent community. But notice I don't need those right now. All I need is the parent web ID to know this particular item right here is the is the connecting grid that I need. There'll be a time where we may need to know how it was added to, something was added to a scene or something like that. So we'll use that at a different time. But for now, the only thing I really need is in this code, I need the where the parent web ID equals the thing ID's ID, and it's not deleted. I know, ID. Okay. From there, the results of this, which is results, I'm going to say CG for connecting grid. I just don't want to convolute the results because I have results here, results there, and I'm going to say for each, and we'll make that results CG and row CG for the connecting grid. And I'm going to create an array which will be Z connecting grids and array. It's going to equal array. And then here, this particular one, now we're back to needing an index. So I know we're going to do more than one of these, so let me just see. We'll just call it CG equals 0. That's going to be our index, and then we're going to do, for each one it'll be this plus equals 1. That will increment it, and then here, our design of these connecting grids, CG, ZCG, will be the connecting grid equals an array itself, and this one will be the design of all the values that we want to put inside of it using this notation. Okay. Cool deal. We're making progress here. And my glass is empty. Okay, I'll finish out this piece and then I'm going to go take a couple minute break and fill my glass again. But for this part, what I'm going to do is we're going to put connecting grids, and that's going to equal this $Z connecting grids. That way, whatever we put inside that array is going to be part of the response. It'll be here, and the only thing we need to do now is decipher all the various parts that come back from the database when we look in the connecting grids and tell it we need the connecting grid ID, we need the parent web ID, web type, blah, blah, blah. You see all the fields. I'm going to make this really easy and go here, send to SQL editor. Select all statements enough to get the fields. I'm just making this simple. So I don't have to bounce back and forth between the pages. I'll put that right here as a picking list, and I'm going to say connecting grid ID and make that $, 0 CG, and then in here we have connecting grid ID. So we're going to do a whole bunch of that. I'm going to put a comma. Let's see, past connecting grid ID. There's a value in doing that, but I'm not going to worry about that at the moment. Yeah, actually I am. I'm going to go ahead and pass the value. I'm just going to put a bunch of these down here, and then we're going to decide how many we actually need afterwards. Past connecting grid ID is... We'll do it that way. Parent web. Now you can see why I copied and pasted and brought it here. It makes it a lot easier than typing each one of these or making all the mistakes of doing them wrong. Child web ID. Child web type. Position X. Position Y. And the thing about it is a lot of these are going to be zeros, and then the scaling is all going to be ones, but it's still default values. They're useful. We're going to transfer it with it because there are going to be different times where I do different things with stuff, and it'll be nice to have them all in one place. So we're going to be passing everything, even though most of this is default values and not even changed. So we got all the way through the scaling. Okay, let's put a bunch more of these. Okay, and after scaling, we have the rotation. And it's a rotation XYZ, of course. Okay, and load action zone ID, which we're going to get all the action zones afterwards. And to continue on all these different various pieces. Attach action zone ID, alt tag. Create date. Do I want? Yeah, I want them. It's good to know. I'm going to put it all in here, and then I'll decide what I actually want to use on the other side, but it's better to put everything in and then decide what you're going to do with it afterwards. Okay, create user ID, create date. And update dates also matter, because if there's been no changes since the last time it was updated, I'm not going to take it. There's no reason that if there hasn't been any updates to do it. I know people can trick that, and if it's deleted, we're not getting them anyway, so we already know there's no deleted issue. We're not even trying to pull those files. Okay, so now with this in place, we should be able to push that up here. That one isn't the one. It is the connect up here, connect right there, and then share. That's what we're working on. And now if I pull this page, should be more data. Nope. What'd I break? Oh, I broke that page. Okay, what'd I miss? Since the page was broken, it didn't come through. Connecting grids array. It builds the array based on these results. Y. And this a period at the end of it. I mean, a comma at the end of anything? No. There's no extra commas at the end of the rows. This increments as it's going. Didn't miss any of that notation. That is correct. Okay, if you're seeing anything and you want to chime in here, this would be a good place for you to chime in. What'd I miss? It looks like my notation is correct. That shouldn't be a problem. If this has anything, which is from here, okay, let's go to the next best place. Let's check log. When all else fails, log directory, and it is 3D Walktheweb errors. Let's go to the bottom of this. And what did it say? That's not correct. Client denied by server. Okay, fine. That doesn't matter. Those are not what I'm dealing with, so that's not it. Didn't pop an error here. That's something else too. I know all these values are in the database. And I know this works. Double check the steps. Here we go again. WTW underscore. The thing ID is this one. Copy that to there. And did I mess up anything doing that? Nope. Okay, do that. And nothing. There is the problem. Well, it shouldn't be a 500 error. That's actually a syntax error. So something else was wrong. Parent web ID. TNG grids. Connecting grids is spelled the correct way. Parent web ID. Parent web ID. Deleted equals 0 shouldn't have a problem. Okay, so that part works. For some reason it doesn't like that part. Do I have the right ID? Parent web ID. Oh, it's child web ID. There is none with parent. Child web ID equals this. I know what I'm doing. And ID equals blank. That's what I wanted to say. There it is. Okay, so that will bring back results. But I don't know why it did an actual error. So let me figure that part out. But because that was a syntax error, that wasn't. Yeah. So this should be child web ID equals that, and ID equals blank. Let's see. I don't know why. Did I type something wrong down here? There's comma after that. This piece is here. That piece there. That matches that name. That's not a syntax error on any of those pieces. Well, I'll start remarking out things if I need to and give it a shot, so we'll find out here in a second. Now I know we're going to get a return value, so that's going to change the situation anyway. But to get a 500 error on that page was... there's something else wrong. Okay, let's... oops. Okay, now we know we got the SQL right, but let's find out where the 500 error is. Let me change... let me remark out from here to here. That's where I'm parsing it. Let's find out if that's the error or not. Okay, so that allowed it to bring it up. It's in that section right there. Let me find out if it is between here and there, which means my notation's off. Hello! How's it going? How you doing? Welcome on. Basically working on being able to share an item from one server to the next and just seeing if we can pass the data at the moment. See if it fixes our problem we're having here. I'm just kind of doing some checks. Let's try this one. Nope, see, that's where I've got a notation issue. Okay, let me see what I did wrong. See, connecting grids is an array, and that's the value equals. I don't see how that's an issue. That was the exact same thing I did before. Okay, what did I do wrong? Oh, for each, no, as that. That's exactly the notation that it was there. So that shouldn't be a problem, and that should be the results of this. Should go there, should go there. Okay, let me find out which of these two lines is causing the issue. That shouldn't be a problem. Guess when you do this, walk through it enough, you find out what's going on. Nice project. Do you work with PHP? Yeah, I do PHP. I do JavaScript. Using Babylon as a gaming engine behind it, and which obviously uses WebGL and all kinds of cool stuff. I've been integrating a lot of Blender items. So what we're doing right now, for example, is I'm taking this object, which I created in Blender. I added it to what I'm calling my 3D CMS. It's designed to make games easy to build. So you can have multiplayer games with all the avatars and everything in place. And if you want to build your own game or you want to create a scene for a game or something, you can just grab this product. It's open source. It's free. It's on GitHub called Walktheweb. And basically, you can come in there and just totally build your different items or even download things that others have shared and piece together the different scenes and stuff. So we have all kinds of cool parts like... For example, this is a scene that I'm building, and the idea is behind it is basically it's 3D internet because the buildings can be hosted anywhere on the internet, on any server, and they can be combined into scenes. So we can do that for 3D shopping stores, we can do that for games, and actually add game components and stuff into scenes. Just a quick thing. Yeah, so basically we're going to make it where you can hop in and drive boats, and you can have friends on here and jump in there with you. We're going to make it have cars and all kinds of stuff. But notice like the building, there's a spot across the street that there's nothing. As you're walking, it's actually loading the building as you get close to it. So you're basically browsing the internet, and it's going out on the internet and loading the building. And then by the time you walk over to it, it's already loaded, and you can walk inside and you can interact with it. And if it's part of a game, you can do that. If it's part of like here where I've got the, it loads things out front. But see, it's basically loading things as you go so that it, creates whole different scenes. There's shopping scenes. But the other part is, just like when you play a video game, you can only load so much into your screen at a time, into your system. But what this allows us to do is while this is loading over here, notice the boat docks on the opposite side disappeared. So it's juggling what's loaded at any one time. So some things load, some things unload. It's kind of like being on a conveyor belt. So that will mean we can actually make some pretty big unlimited scenes that as you're walking around, you can keep on going because it's getting rid of stuff as it's loading new stuff in. The cool part is you can load the buildings, you can load sections that are a game, load the game logic when you walk in them, unload the game logic when you walk away. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm doing. We're creating all kinds of cool stuff with it. Been working on it for a number of years. went open source just in September, so it's really taken off since then. And I just keep on building different things. You can have a store can be as small as like one little shopping cart selling something, or you can actually go in like a whole WooCommerce store, and when you walk up on it, you basically have all your products from WooCommerce on the shelves. You can interact with them. When you click read more, it actually opens a web page on your WooCommerce site from WordPress, so you can actually interact with it, add to cart, do whatever you want there. If you click add to cart, it'll put it in the cart for you. But all checkouts and everything else are actually being done on the original seller's website. So we're not interfering with the actual process of sales. It's the same place that they're normally selling, but it's a whole new way to display all your products and show off what you have. So, people can come in here and go shopping and check things out. Notice that, like even here, I made some t-shirts on a table. I created that in Blender. So we can do all kinds of things to show off your products in 3D. They can include animation. And the builds are kind of websites or something. Yeah, think of each building themselves as a separate website hosted anywhere on the internet. Then you create these scenes, so it's kind of like 3 layers. In my product, when you're in admin mode, you actually have 3 things. You have 3D communities, which are the scenes. You have 3D buildings, which you can put in there. And then you have 3D things, which you can put into buildings or communities. So like a light post, I put it in a community. If I was working on a chair or a table, I could take the chair and put 4 chairs around a table, in a building, for example. And that's how you kind of combine things to make these assemblies of my website. So then it's, taking any of these 3D models. You can even find them on the internet. But you take these 3D models, you bring them right in, and you can use them in your scenes and use them in your game scenes. Do anything you want with them. So, and it's a multiplayer environment. So anybody walking around the scene, second they log on, you'll see them walking around in the scene. You can communicate with them. We have some, simple texting communication, chat back and forth. But we're working on some additional stuff. In fact, we want to do some voice over IP and all kinds of cool stuff. So we're getting there. It's a build in progress. But like I said, we do open source. So the website, everything's available. Let's say, if I remember. I think that's where. Yeah, there it is. So the open source is at that site there. You can download Walktheweb, load it on your own server. It has the same server requirements as WordPress. So you'll need PHP. You have to have a database behind it, which in our case, we're using MySQL at this point. And then basically it just loads itself just by installing it. You'll need to know what database, database login and database name and stuff. But that's it. And it loads right up and you're off and running. But we keep on working on to improve it and make it do everything you'd want it to. But as you can see, can you imagine if you do, are you a programmer? Because if you're a programmer and you want to create 3D sites for customers, somebody that has a store and you want to give them a 3D store where people can come in and walk around, all you have to do is build the store, build the scene, or even download one that we're sharing and stuff. And then you can give them a site up in a matter of minutes, and next thing you know, they have a 3D store. You can make it look just like their real store using Blender. Blender's free, so you can use Blender. I created all this using Blender 2.8, all the different buildings and stuff, and the carts. So that's kind of the concept, and that's where we're heading with it. And we keep on working to smooth things out. Sometimes you'll see occasional bump of a lag when it loads things, and I'm working on those. We're smoothing them out. But notice that it's not too bad. It's not too bad considering it's actually going out on the internet, grabbing something and rendering it into the scene while you're walking around. It's not too bad. We're getting it there. Oh, cool. Yeah. But also, when I'm not actually live streaming, there's a link below to join our Discord, and if you go over there, you'll be able to find me at all the other days. When I'm not streaming, you can always contact me there. And if you need any help, or if you want to do a joint project working on something using this technology, I'll assist you any way I can. I just want to see it successful, so whatever it takes. I've been working on it for a number of years full time, and whatever it's going to take. So if we can make improvements to it, I want to make it where, hey, you can just jump in the boat, click on the steering wheel, or click the start button. Next thing you know, you're driving the boat. If others jump in, then they're riding along with you. If you want to drive cars, if you want to do boat races, if you want to, make a fishing game. You can go out on the water and then start fishing. If you want to have canal boats go up and down through the canals here on the city, every bit of that's going to be stuff that you can do as you walk around and play around with the scene. So it's a whole new way of 3D internet, as I call it, because you are taking 3D models and actually recreating items, but they interact with real, with regular websites. Just like I showed you on the buttons. When you click on them, it does change what's loaded, opens up interactive windows to the regular internet and stuff. So, and see how things just appear as you walk closer. And, even if I walk backwards, watch the boat will disappear when you get a certain distance away from it. So we've done all that kind of stuff, and see, there it goes. The building's gone. So, and also, just so you know, yes, it is 3D. You can actually change the cameras. There's a number of cameras, but we can also immediately switch it to the red or the blue cyan, the red cyan glasses, so you get it in 3D for poor man's 3D. Or you can go to VR headset, and you can actually use it in a headset. Babylon is natively designed with certain cameras to work with most of the VR headsets. So we're working on adding the different ones into the drop down, so you can actually pick. For example, you'll be able to go right to Oculus, and it'll automatically work with it. Or if you click, whichever one, you'll be able to do it. So that's just the concept we're doing. We have some other cool stuff we're doing, such as, like here, you can change how close or back behind. You've got a slider just to move it around. We're working on moving some of these menus to some heads-up displays, make it more game interactive without having a traditional menu pop up and stuff. And, so we're doing all kinds of cool stuff like that with it. We also have, just so you know, there is a scene camera, so you can have a scene camera and walk around in your first person, and you can change which camera view this one uses. So, like, you can have the self camera here while you're walking around and seeing things this way. You can do anything you want. We've got a number of options here. We're working on it. We're trying to make it as flexible as possible, and every time somebody gives us an idea, we throw it in here and make it all work. So whatever it takes, we just keep on adding to it and building it, and like I said, making games. I have multiplayer servers going, so we're running, if you're familiar with this, Socket.io, and let's see, so we're running Socket.io for our multiplayer. We got a number of different pieces that we put in place so that it's all, cool and everything else. But from the admin, what I'm doing right now is when you build an item, and you created it yourself, and you want to get your name out there as somebody that can be hired to build items for other people in their scenes, then basically we can go over here and we can say, I want to share this item. You can take a picture of it right in the system, so you can change the default snapshot. Oh, by the way, you can also click this button here and detach from the avatar, so that while you're building it, you can move around and set different things, do whatever you want with it. But you can come over here, figure out what you've got, and then decide, okay, I need to set a default snapshot, and it'll automatically update the picture to whatever you do. You can put in your descriptions and search keywords that people will use, and when you click Share Thing Template, it's going to confirm, and then you click the button, and then it's going to send it to the main Walktheweb hub, and then others will be able to search for that item and download it and use it in their systems. So, but they'll know which developer did it, and if they want to search, cross-reference, and say, hey, I want to find other things this person built, then they're going to be able to see things that are for free, but then they can also put things there that they want to charge a fee for. We're going to set that up so that it's kind of a marketplace. So if somebody says, hey, I want to build a Ferrari, but I don't want to give it away for free, okay, build your Ferrari for a game, and then charge people for downloading it. That's the way to do it. I've been a programmer a long time, and I basically want to make a system that all programmers can be like a playground. Do anything you want, bring up 3D sites as fast as you want, bring up 3D games very quickly, because you're going to be able to just say, okay, here's the environment. I already have multiplayer, I have logons, I have a community of people using the sites and going to them and visiting them. So all I have to do is put in my game logic of the game I want to design. But think of this. One of the cool things that's actually really cool also is, let's say I build a game. Let's say it's a paintball game. So you go over there and you play paintball, and here's a scene that, is some bunch of forts and stuff to do some capture the flag game or something. Well, the cool part is you make that as a building, and then you can take that and drop it into any scene. So not only do people play your game when they're on your scene, but you can also let them play their game when they're on their scene by using your game. Now, you'll get the statistics of everything that happens on their server, along with everything that happens on your server. So people get to know you even if it's not on your own hosted server. So I'm kind of changing the paradigm of how you think about websites. Instead of just drawing as much attention as you can to yourself, build an item and then put it in many websites, which are 3D sites, 3D scenes, and basically anybody that goes to any one of them can play it. Well, if you have, for example, if I'm trying to sell paintballs, paintball guns and products and everything else, I might want to have a paintball game right on my site, so people get enthused about it and play it with their friends and everything else, and it attracts more attention. So we mix the games with the businesses, and then the businesses basically pay to help us out. Make the money for the games. Games are always free for everybody, and so we end up with more users, and yet the businesses love the extra traffic, make more sales, everybody's happy. Programmers build the buildings for the businesses. You build games to attract attention and to help them out and do different things. You'll get paid by businesses to make games. Hey, I'm building a whole market so that you can developers and programmers and graphics artists can all make more money. That's the bottom line. Just make it where you can make more money. Okay, so back to where I was. What I'm doing is I'm working on sharing this template, but to do that, what I have to do is I have to make this, I have to set this up where it's adding a lot of pieces. Let's just say, there's a lot of things this thing has to do, but one of them is all the various parts for a thing. We have what we call the connecting grid, which is it's like a pin drop. When you add your item to another scene, for example, it's a great job. Be a programmer and make systems. You got it. I'm making the interface to make it easy to create games that are multiplayer and also bring along the audience of people that want to play the games. So when you create something, you don't have to worry about marketing it. It's going to get out there into a distribution center, of all this stuff. That's the goal behind all this. Okay, so there's a couple different parts. The connecting grids are, like I said, a pin drop. It decides the position, the scaling, and the rotation of any object that you put into a scene. Then there's things I call action zones, which the main one is a load zone. When you walk into an invisible box, it automatically knows, hey, you're closer to this item, render it, go fetch it, and render it in the scene. That's how we add buildings to scenes. We're actually fetching them and rendering them right into the scene as you go. So as you see, we're making good progress, and I'm just adding all these various parts so that it can actually work, so we can get the various things in place. Let's see, what do I got here? Okay, so this next part. Okay, for some reason it gave me an error on this line, and I'm not seeing. Oh, let me guess. The only thing I did, it was a 500 error. I forgot to put a semicolon at the end of the line. I guess I had to walk away for a second to realize what it was that I screwed up. So now, let's test out that piece of it right here. Oh, let me close that. Let's go here. And this one should be more data? Nope. No data. What did I break? Okay. Well, it didn't give a 500 error. That's a little bit of an advancement. Yeah, what a miss. What I miss? I know you're helping me. I'm just not. Okay, so I put that there. That made it where it's not a syntax error, but for some reason this didn't. I already checked this, and that should have brought back a record. That should have got something, because I went over here and I double checked. This brings back one record, and that's what it is. Okay, So there's no problem there. Then I take that for each of the results, tell it to load it into the Z connecting grids array. Makes sense. And then I append it to here and display it. So I don't see... Yes, the connection item. So even when there's nothing in the item, it still has one itself saying, here's how we normally treat this item, so that when you connect it into something else, it can have some default values set and everything. Yeah, from the database. So everything's database driven. You're going to see, for example, connecting grids right here. It brings back the connecting grid, which has an ID, has the child web ID. This is the particular one, the thing ID that we're working with. Has its position XYZ, scaling XYZ, and rotation XYZ. And then it even says what the first loading zone is for when it gets added to a scene. And then a little bit of extra data here that not so much of an issue right now. Okay, so that stuff's all there. This should have loaded because we actually had all these various pieces in place a minute ago. When I remark out this, the thing loads more than that. So let me see what I did. And we got the latest up there. That is from the right directory. That helps too. Yeah, see, it's not bringing back anything. It should have... I should be appending to what it was already bringing back anyway. Oh, I didn't change my ID number, did I? Let's see if the share hash... Ah, the share hash changed. That's what it is. Okay, because I brought up that page in the web browser, it actually changed the little hash code that I'm using to make sure that it doesn't get... It's going to be a temporary little hash number that basically, it's a random key. It makes sure that when you're doing this stuff, you only get it so far. Okay, so that's going to be an expirable random number so that when it says, I want to share this, it comes back and says, okay, I'm going to grab it, and it uses that same key value just to kind of handshake. It's just one of many layers of security that I'm putting onto this thing. There'll be a lot more scrubbing of the data, so when I bring it in, it's going to scrub the data and only get valid stuff, write it to the database on my hub. Then when you want to search and download something off there, it'll actually get the pieces that it needs. They'll already be validated, and you'll get it in a format that you expect. Okay, so that gets the connecting grids. Next, we're going to copy this over, and we're going to get the action zones next. Which action zones, there's a number of types of action zones. Action zones can not only just load things, but it's also, they have a number of things they do. You can walk into one and then it automatically opens the door for you. So you saw a little bit of that in the scene a minute ago. And I'm going to, just to see what I'm going to get, let's go over here for a second. And okay, we're done with connecting grids for this particular one. Let's load action zones. And I'm going to pull it based on the... Notice that when you're editing in one, it'll tell you what the thing ID is that you're editing right on the top of the page. I left certain things exposed and other things hidden on purpose. Makes it easy to go back and forth between your scenes and your screens and everything else you're doing. But if I say where thing ID equals this value, then I should get only the ones related to this item. This particular item doesn't have any opening doors or rotating objects or sliding doors. We have all that stuff built in where all you have to do is drop it in a scene, say, okay, here's the axis I want it to move on or rotate around, and then you can even tell it the speed of the rotation or the distance that it rotates when you walk into the zone. And what happens is just like this. Let me show you. Let me get out of that screen, and I'm going to open up, let's open a building. Let's pick, have doors on that one. Helps if I have one with doors. Okay, so on this particular one, what's cool is this. What it is, while you're in the admin mode and you're working on your different items and stuff, now there's my building, and it's loading my avatar. There he is. Okay, so now I can walk around. Notice how when I walk towards this door, the door opens when I get close, and it closes if I go farther away. What I did was this. I have these zones, and what they do is they determine what loads and when, but there's other ones like to open doors. For example, when I'm a certain distance, notice there's this bigger box around it. That would tell me to load things on the inside when I get that close. I'm about ready to go inside, make sure all the items are inside are loaded. So it triggers going out, adding those items that it finds. But notice when I walk inside of this box, it opens a door, and if I walk outside that box, it closes the door. This is an action zone that tells it, I'm close enough to a door, go ahead and tell it to open. Now I put it, because the door opens the other direction, I put it when you're really close from the inside. So it looks like you pushed the door even though you actually didn't push the door. See? So that's how action zones work. And they can do all kinds of things. This is actually cool. One of the ones I worked on recently is I made an action zone that when you walk inside of it, it automatically loads additional animations to your avatar. So like I'm writing, one of the things I'm doing is a miniature golf course. And when you walk inside that area, I want it to know how to pick up a golf course, how to do a swing, how to do a victory dance, and anything else related to miniature golf. So what I did was when you're in that box, it loads the animations to your avatar. And when you walk out of the box, it unloads those animations because you no longer need them. So I'm doing some really cool stuff like that. I do things like if you pick up a paintball gun, it automatically changes your standard pose to the gun standing out here in front of you. So if you're standing there, it's pointing forward. And your arms are related to the way it needs to move with the gun in your hands. If you run or walk, every one of the moves change to carrying a rifle. So I've done some things to make it real easy to code with. It's kind of like doing all the heavy lifting in the code, and then all you have to do is say, hey, set this variable. Now all of a sudden I've got all these animations with the rifle in my hand. So makes it real easy to work with, real easy to change things out on the fly, real easy to put them back ground zero. Everything that it loads, I set it up so it can unload them just by walking away from them. Working on all that kind of stuff all the time to constantly improve it. But that explains the action zones right there. So what we're doing in here now is we're pulling the action zones, and we want to know for every action zone, we're going to make this next one the action zones and change the value here, AZ, results AZ, it's going to go there, and we change the values here, AZ, and then we have, we're going to need, where we have connection grids, we're going to call it action zones. I try to put enough, and I try to put some comments in the code. I went through and I took some of the code that I had like 12,000 lines of code, broke it down into multiple files, added all the different comments to each one of them to tell you what they do. I've separated the code into very logical directories and everything else. If you check out the YouTube site, you'll see a lot of it'll have the code walkthroughs where you can check out how I laid out the code in the different folders and everything. Makes it real easy to get to, real easy to find things, real easy to add and append things. I'm making it where you can do plugins. You've seen WordPress. Well, now you can do plugins, and you can actually do stuff like create a 3D plugin of your game logic or whatever you want to add to a scene, and it can be a plugin that people download and add to their server. So really cool stuff that we're working on. And so then over here we're going to add action zones, and it'll be copy that, and we'll put that there. Okay, so we're doing the action zones, and make sure we get the incremental value correct. Take out all those because I know they're all wrong anyway. Take this one and make it there. Now when I copy a bunch of these to do what this next step has to do, We're going to get all the action zones. I'm going to do what I did last time, make it easy. Action zones, copy to SQL editor. I could do it to clipboard too. And do the select all statement. And now if I just paste that here, it'll be a nice place where I can work from. These have, quite a few values. First one, action zones. We're going to make sure we get every one of these fields in here. And we're going to grab everything and then later sort it out and decide what we want to use and not use. And so that'll make it nice and friendly. Building and thing. Touch mode ID. And load action zone. And action zones can even load other action zones, so there's all kinds of layering of, you don't want to load anything any more than you have to until it's time to load that item. So that's the kind of stuff that I did through this whole code. So all the way down to the action zone name, it's gone. I'm just getting the field names all correct right out of the database, so we don't have to worry about naming schemes or misprints or typos. So movement type, movement distance, position X, position Y, position Z, and scaling. And scaling Y, just going through all the different values that action zones have, and scaling Z. Okay, copy that. Okay, and it's all the way through scaling. Now we have rotation. See? Axis position. Axis position Y. Position Z. This is rotation. X, Y, and Z. And actually rotation Z. And then we have the rotate axis, tells it which direction or which axis we're actually applying the rotation to. Degrees. Because you can rotate the axis to where you want it, and then you have a active rotating axis. So it's kind of like a little bit of both things. Some of it's just used behind the scenes, other things are actually used on the front end, that you set. Rotation speed, for example, is passed through the form, so you can set it to different speeds. And then we have JavaScript function and parameters. And like I said, I'm grabbing everything, even though not everything is needed. Like a create date on an action zone. Not a whole lot of issue about that. But what I do want to know is if there are different users that were part of this project that built things or modified them. Because I want to give credit to where credit's due. So if it's a user and if they've done certain things and added certain things to the scene or whatever, I want to make sure that they're getting credit for what they did on my system when they share something. So not just the person who shared it, but the person who built each part of it, I want to give them credit. So let's say you share one item and 4 people built it, and each one did a different amount of work. Well, based on what pieces they added, we'll give them a percentage of the work they created. And I can decide how much credit each person gets for each thing. So it's kind of cool. But it helps you build your resume too, because your resume is going to be a accumulation of all the different items you've created over time. Okay, so from here, Let's take that. It went back to 0. Okay. Every time I open that page, I'm killing off the the hash that it's using. So if it reloads the hash, it kills the screen. So I got to be careful about reloading that screen because it's reloading the hash with that screen. So so it's not that this didn't work. It's just that it needs the latest hash. And there it is. There's our rotation. There's our items. We have a connecting grid right there. You can see connecting grid ID. And then we have the action zone IDs and the different ones that we're sending in. Okay, and now let's see. Let's go on from there. After action zones, the next one is going to be the molds. This is where we get a lot more stuff to do. The molds have a lot of fields in the table. So, same thing that we just did. I'm going to copy the connecting grid one again just because it was simple. It's a shorter list, so then I'm going to paste that right here. And okay. Hi Eva, how you doing? I just keep plugging along. I keep making things. She just jumped in. From thing molds, where thing ID equals that, and deleted equals 0. And we'll put it there, there, there. Molds, molds. Let's make that one mold. Let's make that row molds. Okay, so we need that one there. This one is the mold index, so we're going to index that one. And I'm going to chop out all these because they're not the right field names. And we'll get back to that. Good. Glad to hear it. Yeah. Okay, so in this section, let's see. We're doing a lot. We're making it where you can share the items and download them so that others can contribute to what items you can get and share and everything else. So it's a lot of pieces. But let's see. Thing molds. Where's the thing molds? I need this table and open all the rows. Thing ID equals. This one may not have a lot of items, but we're gonna mark it anyway. Thing ID is that number right there. Copy that. Go here, paste it there, and I just want to see what we're dealing with. Hey, we got one row, so that's not going to be a lot, but everything else is going to be a lot more after that. So. Okay, so, yep, so we're only bringing one record back from this particular thing, but it has all the fields, so, but we're going to set it up to do all of them if necessary, whenever they are there. So we're going to put that to the clipboard, select all statement, just so I have some friendly list to work with. And I'm going to paste that there so I have something there. Take these, copy that, and just make a handful of them to start with. I'll move them down as I go. I want to make sure I can see my page. Okay, so we have that. And parent thing mold ID. Thing ID. Tells it which thing it's part of. Load those. Load action zone. And then we have the shape that it's actually creating. And covering, which is the textured surface or colors that it uses. Position. Position Y. Position Z. And scaling. Scaling Y. Scaling Z. By the way, this stuff is going to help us also in another way is later on when we want to set up something where you can back up your server to mine as a service, backup service, then these same functions will make it really nice to send over each record individually and make sure everything's transferred. So just saying, some cool stuff. We'll keep working on it and keep adding new features and functionality, and you guys keep using it and keep on jumping on the code. If you're a coder, enjoy, jump in. Okay, we got the offsets. Okay, and the U scale and V scale. That's for the texture surfaces, by the way. I know today's stuff is kind of redundant, but tedious, but at the same time, some really cool stuff. I'm making this so that we can actually get all the different items that are part of the Babylon files that you put on the server. So we'll keep on adding the different pieces and make it worthwhile. So we're down to graphics level. And if there's a texture ID, bump map IDs, and hover IDs, video usage, posters. Okay, see you when you get back. Not actually, you can see me when you get back. I can't see you. Okay, diffuse colors. Make sure I don't skip any rows. That'll get ugly later, right? Okay, I need some more rows. And get rid of a few more rows, just since I did the diffuse colors already. Okay. Specular. Okay, and we got that. Emissive color. Copy that. By the way, they got a new function that allows me to go from an HTML color to this RGB breakdown and everything else. And since they put that in here, I'm thinking that I need to go back through this code at some point and change these values where instead of 3 colors saved in the values, I can save just 1 color of the actual, I can save 1 color of the HTML color, and then I can always reverse it back based on what color numbering that is and stuff. So yeah, so that's kind of one of the things I've been considering taking care of recently, but we'll get there. And bringing these others out here. Sound ID. Okay, this is all for the sounds that are attached to a mold if you use those. It's pretty cool. You can attach a sound to anything in the system, and basically it'll come from that source within the scene. It's pretty cool with you know, it's basically 3D stereo sound effects. Really cool stuff. Okay, and here we go again. More fields. And knock off all the ones I've already done. We got through the inner angle. Now the outer angles. And this one. And all the goodies. We have web text. And web styles. Opacity settings. I know there's so many settings. Side orientation. I extended so many of these functions to the interface. There's a couple of them here that are in the database that aren't in the interface yet, but we'll get to them. We'll clean them up and keep on going. But the good news is they're all being copied and pasted and done everything. They're being transferred and everything else. So it's all good. It's all good. Subdivisions, min height. Max height, and we're still going strong. And if we check collisions, or can you walk through the item? Pickable. Action zone ID. And if you cut it out of another object, we got all kinds of cool stuff here. Cut that out of there. Alt tag, if when you move your mouse over it in the scene, you want it to say something. Product ID, this has to do with, you know, this product ID section doesn't really need to be there. I think we've already got that in another table. I'll have to review that and phase that out. Oh no, this is if you selected. Okay, I know what it is. And I'll have to see if I can phase that out now or if it's something that I'm in work in progress. Just parameters, date created, and I think I need one more. Copy that. So date created user ID, so we know who built it or who added it to begin with, and then if somebody else updated it, we want to know the latest updating person. So update date and user ID. Those are going to be helpful to see if an object's been actually changed or modified or something. Okay, we don't need deleted because if it's deleted, we didn't pull it to begin with. Okay, so that should be all the mold objects. And we have molds. So, comma, molds. There's going to be some more on this one, by the way. Oops. Molds. Okay, so that's the basic molds, but there's more to those because underneath the molds, there's more to them. Let's see. For each mold, this is where it starts getting trickier. Okay, so let's play process of elimination. First of all, we've done, I'm going to open up the ones that I know I still need to do. I'm not going to worry about buildings right now or communities. Those are different. We've already done connecting grids. Menu items have nothing to do with that. It's the interface. Mold points is one. Plugins doesn't have to do with this. Roles don't. Scripts may. Settings aren't. Shopping is a different plugin altogether. Upload objects have to be done. Uploads have to be done. API keys have to do with users. That stuff isn't part of this. Web aliases has to do with who you're hosting and where. Web images have to be done. Okay, those are the tables I still have to attach or attack onto and make sure they do it. So let's start with mold points. If you look at the columns for mold points, there's no mold points in here. Well, that's going to be something where I have to set it up, but it's not actually going to do it. It has a mold ID field, and then it does the rest of this. So what I need to do is mold points are only going to work if I pull them while I'm doing the mold array. If I pull them as part of this right here, actually it's not part of that array, so that can all be done. I can do mold points right here. Because mold points, oh no, I have to do it before, I'm sorry. Mold points are going to be part of each mold. So for every mold that comes through, I'm going to have I'm going to say basically mold points equals, and they're going to be a separate item down here. And it's going to be an array of the points that are after it. So under molds, what we need is right here. Hey, Greg. Let's see. Gregersman. Hey, sorry about that. I have to like slowly pronounce them and figure it out and everything else. How's it going? Finally, someone digging into web dev on Twitch. Greg's fine? Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm Aaron. Walktheweb here, but yeah, I'm Aaron. So help yourself. But yeah, I'm coding. I'm running into stuff. We're creating some stuff. We're making games. We're having fun. What I'm doing is, it's actually a 3D CMS for creating games built on Babylon Game Engine. So you can actually build community scenes, 3D buildings, and 3D things that you put in the buildings and in the scenes. And the final result is you can create basically gaming scenes, 3D shopping, 3D whatever. We can create all kinds of cool stuff. But it's designed in a way that things load as you walk up on them and unload as you walk away. So it's actually, you can make some pretty big scenes because it's not loading any more than what you're ready to interact with at any one time. So, but like here's a little sample scene I'm building. We've got a store over here, and there's my avatar, came in. I'm making it where you can jump in and drive the boat so that we can have boat races and all kinds of fun stuff there. But notice as you walk around, just by getting close to something, it'll automatically open the doors and you can walk into stuff. So we can go ahead and do, a tour around the place. It loads different things as you go. Notice there's no products inside the store right now, but yet as I walk closer, it actually turns on lights and it loads up all the products. And then by the time I walk inside, all the products are ready. This is a sample of a store. Self-taught Deb, yeah, brushing up on my skills and learning Laravel currently. Oh, cool! I actually use Laravel as a global login process. So I do some authorization. I can't even say the word right now. I authorize and do all kinds of cool stuff from there. Authenticate and do all kinds of stuff. I set it up so that if you create one avatar, set it up and do your colors for your avatar and customize it, you can save it as a global avatar, and every Walktheweb site you go to, no matter what server you're on, if you log in with your global account, you'll be able to use the same avatar. So we got some cool stuff I'm doing that are across the board that work everywhere, and it is multiplayer gaming environment using Socket.io, so I'm sure you'll appreciate that one. But yeah, cool stuff. But yeah, we interface with like here where if you actually want to click on anything, then you're actually looking at the original website that the person is hosting themselves on, regular internet, traditional stuff. So you can actually go in here, add things to your cart, make purchases, add or remove things from your cart, whatever you want to do. When you're ready and you get everything going, you can also read me on any one of these products. Kind of made it interactive, a way of really showing off some stuff. Yeah, you're right. It's all running on the browser. 3 3D artist. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, so a collision of both my interests. Nice, nice. Well, see here. Okay, well then you're gonna really like this. You know how you put your 3D artwork out there and people can go there and download objects and everything else? Well, what I'm doing right now is in the admin of these sites, what you can do is you can actually download and upload different 3D objects that are packaged ready to go for the gaming. Yeah, it's a 3D representation of the internet, but I didn't convert the current internet. I'm actually building a 3D internet by making the buildings themselves can be hosted on any server and then put into scenes. So I can have a 3D store that I built, and then what I can do is I can actually drop it into multiple scenes. And anywhere that somebody goes into my store, it's pulling it off my server, and it's actually looking at the products that I put on the shelves, any 3D molds and objects that you created and put in the scenes. You can do all your animation. You can do everything in here and really show off what you do. So for you can actually sell your 3D models and give a couple of free samples so people get to know you. But then you can actually sell your 3D models and make it where they can put them into their scenes and use them for their stores, or if you want to build a custom 3D store for somebody, you could build it in Blender or whatever you use. I use Blender only because I'm a poor man and I basically use the tools that I have for free, right? But you can basically create your objects, your stores. You can create the door, all this other stuff. Make them interactive so they work in these scenes, and then. Standard model format object, and FBX doesn't load directly into Babylon yet. Objects do. Also MTLB, and also Babylon has their own exporter. So if you brought something in like, oh, thanks for subscribing, I really appreciate that. Also, just so you know, we're also in Discord. So I'm on Discord, and if I'm not here, you can always find me there too. But Blender has there's a Babylon exporting tool, so you can create it and do it in any format you want, and then use Babylon or Blender to export it to a Babylon file, and it works natively here. Or it natively does take object files and also MTLB. There's a couple of them that they do, so we'll keep on expanding that as Blender expands their list. I believe that they made some more exporters and importers for Babylon. So as I find them and then drop them into the system, I'll load them into here. But here's the cool part. Okay, so we've got this scene, we've got this parts out here, and I keep saying it's 3D. It is 3D, and here's the cool part. You can actually come in here and say, okay, I'm a poor man 3D, and you can do the red cyan glasses, and it totally is in 3D. Or you can even pick like a VR headset or a VR headset with gamepad, and it's already set up for VR. All these are in Blender is a different camera view of the same scene. So I render the scenes, then I use all of Babylon stuff. Yeah. Super cool. My main workflow is Blender and ZBrush. Nice. And a fair amount of people I work with have been switching to Blender since the 2.8 release. Oh, I know. I learned it before that too. And so 2.8 was like night and day. Made it so much better, especially with all their node work that they changed. It's really cool. So yeah, so I keep on building things, setting up some low poly versions of them, dropping them into the gaming scenes. You're going to love this then. Okay, so we've got these scenes out here. Let me go back to my other camera view for now, just because we're looking in this angle. Okay, so in the admin, what I've done is I've simplified creating scenes, okay? I have 3 parts. 3D communities, which are the scenes. So you can come in here and you can get, any one of my scenes that I have. But there's communities, the buildings themselves, which doesn't actually have to be a physical building. It's just an area or region that you're going to drop onto the scene. It could be a soccer field for all that matters. You don't have to have a building. But it's whatever you want it to be. But the buildings are there, and then I have 3D things. And what 3D things are is any object that you would put into a building or into a community. I've wrapped them this way because these items have the action zones telling it when to load something, when to not load something, or when to unload it as you walk away. But yet I have in the media library I have 3D objects. And in my case, I use the Babylon exporter from Blender. But like I said, you don't have to. Babylon does take object files natively. So I'll make sure I've updated that so it works really well with it. But the cool part is I've taken all these objects and uploaded them right into the scenes. And that's what you're seeing when we work with these items. So if I come in here, for example, let me pick up one. Well, the street lamp's a simple, easy one I've been working with right now. The street lamp is just something that was created in Blender, and basically what it is this right here. If I right click on it, now I'm editing it, and it is a selected 3D object. So all you have to do is you can upload your primary file, it creates a folder on the server, then you go in there and you upload the associated files that go with it. I put my Blender files because I just want them in one place, but you don't have to do that. It doesn't need that. It needs the Babylon file. If there's a manifest file, it takes that, and then you'd put whatever graphics that you need to upload with it. You can also tell it to load animations, and I've even done them on a scale where you can name the animation yourself if you want to call it from other code. You can tell it what mesh to act on if there's a particular one, or you can leave it blank if it's a full skeleton type design. Then you can tell it to start frame and end frame. You can tell it if it's a looping animation, and then you can even set the speed ratios and if there's a script that you want to run on exit and stuff like that. You can even have it have a sound attached to when this animation is running. It'll play the sound. So we have all the different 3D sounds attached to things. But one of the cool parts is you can even say, I want it to be on load, so the second you come in there, it loads up and it'll play that animation. Like I've used that for ceiling fans. You walk in a room, the ceiling fan's already turning. Well, I had another full-time job. I was the webmaster of the county of San Bernardino, which is the largest county in the United States. So I was their webmaster, and I started while I was working there just thinking, hey, I came up with this concept, and I just started doing it part-time. Well, for about 3 years, I've been doing it full-time. 3, maybe coming up on 4 years. But yeah, so, but I just went open source as of the end of September last year. So not quite a year of being open source, but love the way it is. I mean, you can do on-click. You can on-click toggle, so it does one thing when you click it, and it puts it back when you toggle it. You can make it do it with mouse overs and mouse outs. Then I have things where I'm lining it up to do things with avatar movements and stuff. Ultimately, we want people to be able to create their own custom avatars. So basically, they would be able to upload their own avatar and then use it in all the various scenes and stuff. So we're going to have a hell of a lot of fun like that. What I picture in the future is like Ready Player One. You can go in there and everybody can have their own avatars, their own identities, and start playing these massive games together. And I'm building the system that'll do it, and we'll just keep on refining it and make it work. So yeah, that's where we're heading. That's what we're doing, and we really we're putting together all the pieces. I try to put as much as I can into the interface, but just keep in mind it uses the Babylon game engine, which has a lot of functionality to it. And so as they come out with things, I throw them into the interface and I take advantage of them. But I try to make it easy. Like here, you can move an object just as easy as just holding down the button. You can fine-tune move them just by doing the small buttons. You can scale them. So if you made something and you need to put it into a different scale, you can just click quickly and easily change the scale of something. And that works for any objects. You can also rotate them, so along the XYZ axis. There's other objects that I don't put any, I purposely do not put any restrictions on them. I leave it to the person who's creating the site to know that if you go absolutely ridiculous, you're going to get a little lag when it loads. So it will work, but you can take it to the limits if you're not careful. But I do try to show them that, hey, look, if you do this way and stuff, and if you keep poly count in your mind, you can make these things run real well. The other thing I do is when you set your textures, I have this section for Show to Advance. Depends on what you're working with. In this particular one, this doesn't have a lot of stuff. I even have a cancel, which puts it back to its original format. But like you can add building blocks, which are just straight out characters, different shapes, spheres, for example. If I throw a sphere in here, and I'm just going to raise it up so we can see what it is. You can stretch it and move it to whatever shape you want it to be. You can actually color it with the 3 different settings for the color. Like, notice that changed the spot color on it. This was the diffuse color, so the inherent color, then the emissive is what's the sun's reflecting off of it. So you can change the colors like that. You can come in here and say, I want to change the textures of an object, and you can say, I'm going to put a texture on it. You can still use a mix of the texture and the different style that you put on it. So if I come in here and pick, I'm going to pick some type of bump texture so it has something on it. Notice it now has the texture and it has the color in the object. So you can do both. You can mix textures with the colors. You can add bump map textures. There's all kinds of stuff I've thrown in here. You can tell it how far away you want to be when you load, because I give you 3 zones by default. So when you're far away, if it's something you need to see to walk closer, or if it's something that when you're close I want you to see real high detail, I can load things only when you're close. For example, now, if I say load, I think the main thing is, well, I'm going to say normal on this one. And then I can also shift the textures on the surface and scale the textures on the surface. I do all kinds of fun things on here. You can even merge multiple shapes and you can cut out of the other shape, or you can blend 2 shapes together. So this is like the rudimentary tools for adding something to a scene. I purposely do a lot more in Blender than I do here, because it is, you can do a lot more with that if you're, ready for it. Okay, so I've added this object, and notice when I walk back a certain distance, it's going to disappear. Well, okay, I know it's sometimes when I first do them, it doesn't reload everything correctly. I've got a couple bugs there I've got to fix yet. It's on my list. I do have an active list of things I'm doing. But notice when I reload the scene, it's designed to load it when it's when I'm close to it. So when I back up, what happens is I get to a certain distance, and notice that disappeared, but the pole is still there. It's because they're in 2 different action zones, load zones. If I turn on this right here, you can actually see those boxes in my scene. So there's one right here, there's a second one right there, and there's a third one out this distance. Those are the 3 action zones that when you go into it, it triggers it saying, I need to load something, now put it in the scene. That concept is what lets us add things and remove things. So yes, I can do some really high graphic items in the scene. It's because I'm only loading them when it's last minute and when you need it. Or I can even load a sphere with very little. It does object culling. We can do that. Yes. We can do that. We can do all the different. We can do the opacity settings. We can do the alpha, opacity. We can do all kinds of stuff with that, and it's all available through Babylon. They actually have a lot of stuff in there. But the idea is we can even set it so that it's one. So it has some subdivisions when you're far away, so that the object's there, but it doesn't have to use very much processing power. And then when we walk close, instead of seeing this rigid edges, we could actually make it where it's a higher subdivisions for that sphere. So stuff like that can be done through Babylon. I've tested it and I've tried it out, and it works really smooth. And so those are the kind of options we have. Now, I set it up when you're working with an object. One of the options I gave you is when you put in a texture on a surface, it's not so much these. I don't think I set these ones up to do it yet. But, here it is. Force original graphic. Now, when you're using my system and you upload a graphic, then what I do is I save a thumbnail, I save a web-based size graphic, which is like a 512 by 512, and then I save the original graphic. If you click that button to force original graphic, it will use whatever you uploaded. So if you say, I want 4K graphics on this sphere, you can upload a 4K graphic, and then just click that button for force original graphic, and that item will use that 4K graphic. So you don't have to all or nothing. You can select this thing needs detail, but this other item over here, it doesn't matter. I don't want to waste processing power on it. So you can have a 1K graphic on this item and a 4K graphic on this item. It perfectly blends in the scenes, and you can I give you the best, that you can do to make it all work and everything else. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm doing. But I designed it to show you what you're working with and when. And all you have to do is if you right-click on something, you can say, oh, okay, I don't want this anymore. Or let's say create a duplicate item. You can have it duplicate it and then drop it in the scene in another place. You can also delete the sphere and it's gone. Oh, you can also recover deleted. I've added that. Recover the sphere. Is it going to work? Nah, it's not working right this minute. Okay, it's wishful thinking that it was going to work. I haven't tested that in a while. But it's probably a quick fix. But yeah, that's the kind of stuff. So the interface has that kind of functionality. I also added things that are part of, like you can say Babylon file and add something from a 3D model. You can add a candle flame. I've done particle showers. I've done smoke. So you want something to smoke? Guess what? Boom, it's smoking. You can even say, oh, I need the smoke taller. And you can actually set it higher. And now it's more of a smokestack tower. Now the only thing is, notice this sky scene. The sky scene interferes with it. So I'm working on stuff like that. But that was part of this particular sky scene design that Babylon came out with. It actually comes in front of the smoke, which is really weird. But that's something that I've already told them about, and they're working on changing it. But see, we can make things smoke just by doing that. I can, and it's a box, so I can move it. So if I don't want it to smoke from the base or something, I can totally move where the smoking spot is, and it'll come up from wherever I tell it to be. I have all kinds of extra special features and functions. We can do anything that Babylon can do. So, and Babylon is a really good quality browser-based thing. And you can also do native code in Babylon and work it in these scenes. You can do native JavaScript and work it in these scenes. I've done all kinds of stuff so that I want to make it more interactive. Oh, and the final thing, I haven't even shown you this part yet. This is really cool. You got to see this. Okay, we do plugins. Like you've seen WordPress. I know you're a programmer. You've seen WordPress. You can create plugins and activate them and turn them on and off from within your scenes to be used on your server. So let's say you write a plugin and it's about doing a golf course, or it's about a set of cars and how they work and everything. You could create a plugin. People can download them and add them to their sites right in the plugins, and all of a sudden they can use that stuff in their scenes. Now, just like WordPress, the one thing I'm aiming for is making them freemium. So let's say you download a plugin for cars, and by default you get it's JavaScript, PHP WebEnd. Yep, I kept it the same as I wanted to make sure it worked on any place that WordPress works. So any server that hosts WordPress can host one of these sites. So it's JavaScript and PHP backend and a MySQL database right now. So that's what it's using. So yeah, and I've run it on Linux and on IIS systems, so I do have the settings. Looks like it works pretty good from both. Currently I'm running it from Linux for my own servers, but I've run it and tested it on both, so no problem there. But yeah, and let's say you had a plugin and you have a car. So you'd give them the Jeep for free and a person can drive it, one of the avatars in the scene. But yet, if they want to unlock to let other passengers in the passenger seat, or if they want to unlock other cars to use in the scene, then they have to pay a subscription fee or a one-time fee to unlock the plugin. Well, that would be how other programmers can make money, by distributing their little software pieces. So instead of having to write a whole game, now all you have to write is the one component of whatever you specialize in. So if you want to make cars, make a great car. If you want to make social media bulletin board where you can post things and it's all in 3D that show up on the page, I have played around with that before. And if you want to be the next Facebook in 3D, then you can make the social media one and make the plugin for that. And we'll promote it. We'll help you get it out there. We'll get people using it. We'll make you the next Zuckerberg for all that matters. So whatever you are good at and you like to do, if you use it, I'll make it work. We'll make it work. I'll work with you. You come to me and you said, hey, this would work if I had XYZ. I'm going to work on that first and make sure you're taken care of. So that's the way I do it. That's the way we work on stuff. I keep on adding functionality myself. I keep on testing out different game functionality, like a paintball gun. I was working on that a bit, and I'm working on some miniature golf stuff just to show you how we can load animations to the avatars as you walk up on them. Picking up the gun and being able to shoot it. Once we do that, then anybody who wants to make an RPG or whatever type of games they can create those same type of games using the same technologies and samples that I've created. So that's where we're heading. That's what I'm doing. But right now, it's a really good playground. It has multiplayer, like I said. So yeah, I'm working on the multiplayer plugin so that I can release that to everybody. I'll have that done soon. It's already working on our site for the test site. And I fine-tuned the server. It's working really well for us. So we've put a ton of people in one scene at once and seemed to work really well. So hey, we'll keep running with it. One other piece I wanted to tell you is that I try, like everybody has their domain name. Well, what I try to do is I try to start it with 3D dot instead of www. The whole idea is that it promotes that you can have a www website and a 3D website for your server. So anything you host, you can do what you want on there. But because of the way we use this program, you can have multiple scenes, you can have multiple buildings, you can have multiple things, you can combine them into scenes, whatever you want to do. And then I have things like in the settings, web aliases. You can tell me if somebody types a certain URL, then which item are you loading, which domain name, which community, which building, and which thing to be in front of when they load up the scene. So it has things like that where you can give them a URL and it takes you right to a particular thing in a particular scene. So that's just some of the stuff I've been working on to throw in here and make it real functional. I've been adding a lot of stuff with the 3D stores so that you get your different 3D store functionality. You can add new stores. It adds, it uses the API from WooCommerce right now. So when you add a store, you're actually getting the permissions for the API at WooCommerce and back and forth. And I have a WordPress plugin that I created that I'm going to be updating real soon. But oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, you know something? I had, from the very first day I thought of this, I had a concept in my mind, and I've been working at it ever since. It's just been taking a long time to get there, but as you can see, it's really cool. And instead of like making a closed model, I'm making an open model. I'm making it so that here's a playground, but it opens up the possibilities of what the programmers and developers can do with it, and graphics artists. That's what I like. Add some custom models in and play around. Definitely download a copy of from GitHub. There's all kinds of cool stuff there. I do about once a month. I do an update there. So any bugs or any reports or anything that you see that we need to fix, let me know. If I'm not here, you'll find me on Discord, so you can definitely join over there. And the more active you get, the more I can do stuff with you too, because if you're like a programmer working on it, I've got another little group on Discord that we can invite you to, that basically if you get a little priority, that you're working on things with us, and we kind of have a little group that each one of them will help you out with stuff. If you want to contribute to the GitHub project and you say, here, if you add this code in right here, then my code works, I'm all for it. I'm all for making it what it needs to be for everybody to work. So definitely anything we can do to add components, to make plugins a success. I'm building a plugin market. I'm building I'm working on some really cool stuff. I'm doing like the experimental stuff. So one of the things I'm doing is I'm making a drive-in that has a drive-in screen, and when I stream on Twitch, I want to also stream right to my 3D scene so that you can walk around and see it. Just so you know, I already have, let me show you. We have some things in place like, is it part of the building? No, it's community. This community runs a little slow because I haven't completely built it out yet to do everything yet, but it's a cool demo. I think actually this one's a good one. There's one I'm building that's an island that has too many polygons, so I'm working on refining it and making it work really well. But in the meantime, this was a little bit of a test ground I was doing as I was throwing things together. It's loading up some stuff. There it goes. Okay, so, and by the way, you can hold down shift and you can walk. You can also use your mouse. If you hold down the mouse button, you can turn with all the directions with your mouse, left mouse button, or you can roll the scroll wheel and you'll walk forward or backwards. So anybody that wants to use some of that functionality instead of, using the keyboard, you can still walk around with a mouse like you would expect on a regular website. But see, I even made, okay, this was done in Blender. I even made the awning animate the wind blowing on the little flaps. I even have in here, we have a ceiling fan that's working. It's a little bit of lag because this one guy back here, my webby guy, he's actually a lot of polygons, so I'm working on redesigning him right now. But I even have a store worker just to show people what it's like. I have somebody working at the store playing on the counter. We have animation here. So as you can see, we can make interactive stores with all kinds of cool features. The other thing, the reason I came to this scene is this. This is actually pretty cool. See, this is a player, and all I have to do is click play, and it plays a video, and it's with sound and everything else. So you can come out there and you can check it out, and as it's playing, you can walk around. There's no lag on the actual player or anything like that. So pretty cool stuff. But I want to make that where that's actually streaming live, and you can actually sit down and check it out, and you got the TV showing me stream live while I'm going and stuff. So I'm working on that technology to be able to offer that as a streaming service to get it into your 3D scenes. So that kind of stuff is the things I'm working on that just take you to another level. But we have things like, over here, we got a little crazy guy playing on the playing on the stage. He plays some music. It's in 3D, so as you walk closer, it gets louder, and as you walk away, it gets quieter. It also will go to one ear or the other depending on which way you rotate. So it's all 3D sound put out from those different directions and stuff. So yeah, just some cool stuff. We got some audience back here with the bar. Just a little bit of a scene we created. These were all test scenes and stuff where I just keep on trying different things. Another thing we're gonna add in here. I've got another person I'm working with that. Oh, there's the ball that I added to that scene, or to the light post. Forgot to pull it off, I guess. But I'm gonna make it where you can walk up and play skee ball, and there's also some arcade games in here, and so you're gonna be able to play those when you walk in here. So we're working on making them work. So you'll be able to walk right up to a game and play a two-dimensional, Pac-Man game or whatever right on the screen while you walk up to it. So that's some of the stuff we're working on. So I picked up that extra ball. but yeah, so that gives you a little bit of a tour around some of the stuff we have. The 3D CMS, though, really makes it easier. When you deliver a product to somebody, let's say you build them a 3D website, or you build them a game, or you build them a 3D shopping store, it's really easy to deliver because now you have a deliverable that wraps it all in a nice package for them to be able to say, oh, here's my community, here's my building that he made me, and here's some other things that are in the scene. And you can actually host a website for them that has all the various parts. And if they want to change anything in the scene, all they have to do is go in there, edit it, right-click on something, and say, hey, I'm going to move this or whatever in the scene. And they can edit the items and make it be whatever they want it to be. So yeah, so that's the kind of stuff that I did, was I built the interface to make it real friendly to create things using communities, buildings, things. It's like media library. 3D Internet is where you can turn off and on the multiplayer and stuff. And so for an object to be compatible, it just needs to be compatible with the Blender engine, or Babylon engine. Yes. And there's, like I said, there's a Babylon exporter tool. If you just search for Babylon exporter, you'll find it. It's right away. The documentation's right there, and here's the actual tool. And it tells you, this is also helpful hints. It walks through and tells you, this is what you're used to seeing in Babylon. Here's where they are in Blender. So you can do the comparison. So since you know Blender, you can look in here and say, oh, this isn't changing. Oh, if I change this item, it'll make that move or something. Make the opacity and stuff. And I do some videos on that too to help show you which things, like the opacity setting, they actually do it for every color and stuff. But this is really good, and it's an exporter tool, so when you load it in, let me load up my Blender real quick. So here I go, Blender 2.8, and One of the things is, let me just grab an object. What's recent? Like here, for example, this is a lifeguard tower that was brought in there from, it was a 3D model that I purchased, downloaded. I broke this off of part of a whole pier so that the lifeguard tower only loads when you're near it. So I kind of separated it into different objects. But one of the things is, I can even go material preview, whatever. Takes a second. I'm running a lot of stuff on my machine right now. Notice I'm doing all this while streaming, so the browsing can even happen pretty good considering it's doing all this other stuff too. Okay, so when you load the exporter, what it does is it adds Babylon right there as an exporting tool. It also adds, like if you select an object or something, it adds a little Babylon thing in the properties that you can say, hey, it casts shadows or receives shadows, check collisions. You just check them here, and it's pickable. Once you do that, you don't have to worry about setting them on the import in Babylon, which, by the way, I do also, so I'm checking your settings when they come in. But at the same time, you can set them right here. When you're working with the meshes or the materials, you can come down here to the materials, and there's a little section on Babylon, and you can say, okay, backface culling. You can also set transparency. This one's opacity is set, by the way. If you select like the windows, for example, you can make sure that the transparency isn't turned on. So I can say alpha blend. Now it'll use the transparency. You can also do it on the original shadow mode. I don't need any shadows right now. And now you've got your opacity set. The same way when you're working with these, if you go to, for example, shading, and I jump in here and I say, okay, I have my windows, but I want them to have a little bit of a tint to them or whatever. You can come in here, even on your Blender objects, and you can say, okay, I'm going to make my base color this, and see the windows coloring, shading change. You can make it whatever you want. You can, that was the other trick. Babylon, for whatever reason, they like this alpha set for being able to see through things. So on each one of these objects here, if you set the alpha here, that's the one that gets picked up in Babylon. Took me a few days to find that. Once I did, it worked really great. So all you have to do is, if you want these to be transparent windows, you just drop them down like that. Okay? Now, I've taken this item, I've created it, I've made whatever changes I want on it and everything else. I'm going to save it, and I'm just going to say File, Export, Babylon. One thing I did do, just so you know, is I made all of the textures in the root directory right along with the Babylon files and stuff when it exports them. So just letting you know, I did it that way. You don't have to. I mean, we can make the editor go into subdirectories, but since I hadn't done it yet, I'm just dropping them all into the root directory. But like, for example, okay, we've got this scene here. I'm in the scene, so I'm just going to walk where I'm not so near everything, just so that I'm not working with so many meshes or whatever. But I'm going to come over here, and I'm just going to stand right here, and now I'm going to put a lifeguard tower over here. All I have to do is, I'm already editing my community, edit my 3D community, add or edit 3D buildings in this community, and you can actually drop something in. There's two ways to do it. You can make it a separate building, or you can make it part of the original community. If I'm just adding the Babylon file, all I have to do is say Babylon file. It kind of puts the marker for where it's going to be. But if you come in here and say upload primary file, and all I have to do is let's see, where am I at? Data files. Oh, Blender files are here, and I think I put it under peer, the one I was just working with. Peer, lifeguard, I believe. Oh, that's the wrong one. Is it? Forgot to look which one I'm working with. Let's see what directory I'm in. Blender Pure Lifeguard. Okay, yep, that's it. Okay, so all I have to do is pick the main Babylon file first. And what happens is it checks the system and it decides, okay, we're going to upload this one file. It takes a second, and then it uploads it and puts it in here for you. Once you have the directory established, you can select Add, Edit. Oh, in this case, it already picked up all the files. I already had them in here. Okay, it found out that I already had it, so it didn't do a duplicate. It's pointing me back to the one I already did. If it wasn't already uploaded, it would automatically add it as a new object in here. But then all you have to do is you can actually go in here and say upload or replace files. Select that. It's a multi-file selection, so you can actually select them all at once and then just click open and it'll upload all the files together. Once you decide what object you like, you can also add your animations right here. So if you have animations, for example, let's say I make this flag move and I have animations in here, all I have to do is know what frames they are, and you can even look directly in the Babylon file and it'll show you the frames. Then in here, you can tell it the frame ranges from start is this and the end frame is this, make it loop, and it'll turn on and set it to on load, and it'll automatically make the flag move the whole time you're in the scene. So that's as easy as it is to add animations when they've already been created in Blender. Okay, so I'm going to say close on that, but then all I have to do is say select. Notice it marks it up here, and now when I walk or whatever, let's say it's going to load. Takes a second first try. Let's say, come on. There it is. It's coming in. It's actually smaller than I planned, so I'm going to scale it next. It's still downloading. This may be, because I just randomly picked one out of my Blender file, it may be the high polygon version, by the way. So when I go to use it, I would actually pick whichever version I need it to be. See, and we can turn around and make it whatever size we need it to be in our scene. And we can rotate it. And notice the glass that I fixed on it is transparent, and it is shadowed with a gray, or so it has a little bit of a color to it. And that's all it took. See, what I did was I created a 1 by 1 by 1 cube, put that in the scene, and then everything that you add to it becomes part of parents to that cube. So it makes it real easy to decide, hey, I want to go ahead and put this item in the scene, and then if I scale the cube, the whole item scales. If I rotate this cube or change the position of it, the whole item changes as I do it. So you can make this thing be anywhere you want, any way you want it to sit. Whatever you're going to do with it, you can go ahead and put it out here. You can animate the doors so that they open when you walk close, all that stuff. All I have to do is say save object. It's in this scene now. And guess what? It's already interactive. I can walk up here and I can go up these steps. And we're in here at our building. Now, I didn't even make this, I didn't tell it to, man, the rail is kind of close, so I probably want to scale this a little bit more. But at the same time, you can see how it worked. It's all here. See, the door is actually small. So what I would do is I'd scale it so that it's to the proper scale to my guy. But that's it. That's how you bring in the objects into the scene. Real straightforward, real simple. You can add them. Here's the cool part. You don't have to add this as a native into the community. You can also add it as part of the building. Make it as a building and then drop the building into it. So you have different layers of when it loads. You can also make it as a thing and then put it into a building if you wanted to. So anything you want to do like that, it's all available. It allows for the multiple layers of how you stack things so that you can control when they load in a scene. But yep, see, now we've got a lifeguard stand right here. So it's that straightforward. But my job is to make these tools as easy and flowing as possible. Oh, and here's another thing you can do. You talked about the meshes and poly counts and stuff. I have developer tools, and one of them is list loaded objects. You can come here and you can click the button, and it'll automatically list in your console log each object, the name of the object by the naming scheme that I used, and all the different various parts that are in the scene currently. Everything from the action zones to the connecting grids of each point of everything added to the scene, they're all here, and you can actually look at them and check it out and say like, oh, there's the sky object, here's the community ground, which is the extended ground. That never ends, by the way, so you don't have to worry about falling off the earth. Here's my avatar, parts of my avatar, including all the different places that are part of him, like his hands and his feet and his, if you want to attach something to your avatar and pick it up. There's all kinds of pieces I've done, and I made it so we can do it simple so that everybody can do their own pieces and we all just throw it together. So instead of one big company spending years to create one game, I'm creating an game environment that's the 3D internet. It's the whole world already. Open source. You can host any piece of it that you want. You can download the open source, this program, for free and host your own websites. Then it's how we connect and do different things. I'll be selling some services, like the multiplayer service will be, yearly charge, just so that monthly or yearly, we'll figure it out. But so that you can automatically have multiplayer in your scenes and use my server instead of having your own multiplayer server. You'll be able to create games and do 3D stores for businesses. We'll have the businesses paying for different services, and basically all the programmers make money on it. So that's the kind of stuff I'm doing. Oh yeah, so not only can you list all meshes, let me clear it. Now you can also say, I want to see just thing molds, and it'll tell you whatever ones are thing molds in the scene. You can say just the building molds. You can say just the community molds, which ones are part of the community. Which ones are loaded uploads, which have to do with file uploads and things that are on the scene, major graphics and stuff. Automations are something I'm working on for sequencing events, so you can have an animation go for a certain amount of time, then pause, then do something else, or rotate, or whatever you need it to do, and then move to the next step, so we can actually automate things right in our scenes. We're working on some Autobots that'll be like animals just randomly walking around in the scenes. We're working on birds, so they just randomly fly in the scenes. We're working on things to make it look more real. Oh, there's some cool stuff here. When you're working on a community, you can even do landscape and scene. You can set water on the ground. You can set gravity. You can set the extended ground textures. You can add terrain, so you can add another mountain range or whatever you want in the background. You can also edit the sky, and this is kind of a cool feature. Let me see. Okay, right now it's in the middle of the day. So if I said sunrise, it actually animates and moves the sun to the sunrise. Let's see, where's my, there it is. So there's the sun right now. You can say, I want a sunset scene, and it'll automatically move to the opposite side of the screen. And there's the sunset. You can also say night scene, and it'll make what looks like a darker scene, but with a moon in place, so that you can kind of see what looks like a moon. I made the sun look like a moon, but it kind of looks like a moon glow, like a full moon. But even if you go, let's say, sunset scene, you can actually fine-tune the scene with these values. So if you don't want it so close to the horizon, you want it to be a little higher, there you go. You can move it increments. You can change the luminance of the sky. You can also drag these across and say how much you want it to be bright across the whole sky. The solar azimuth is the position of the sun, left to right. The sky Rayleigh, turbidity, there's all kinds of hazing and coefficients and stuff that you can change with and mess with to change the haze of the sky. So this was all the values. See, Babylon created the procedural texture for doing a sky. I just implemented into a dome, sphere around the planet, basically. And basically, you can set the settings for it. When you say save sky, it'll remember whatever setting you do, and now everybody gets the new version of it. So that's the kind of stuff that we do. You can do things like that. We want to make some realism ones. We want to do things like make it rain, make it match weather in a real place around the world, wherever you're from. So if it's raining outside, it's raining in the scene. We want to do some kind of cool stuff like that. But as you can see, we got a lot of pieces. We've got a lot of thought into it, and we keep adding more. So yeah, hope you enjoyed that today. I've done a lot of stuff for this process. As you can tell, lots going on, and you like it. I know it definitely. So like I said, if I'm not here streaming, then you'll definitely find me on Discord. So make sure you join in there. And you can always chat with me directly if you have a question to ask or anything else. Just call me out, on Discord. No worries. I'm available most of the time. I work most days. And I'm going to continue working on this. Right now, what I'm working on is in the middle of these molds, I'm making it where we can export a whole thing, share it, and then other people can search for items to download, and then they can download them and use them.
That's the first stage, is to make them free. The second stage is to make it where, like, you as a programmer can create your objects in Blender, put them up there for sale, and then people in the scenes go, oh, I want that tree, or I want that object in my scene. They can pay for it, and now they get to use it on their server. So that's the kind of stuff we're setting up. It'll be a full market of all the different products, and you're going to be able to sell your items and make them available. So that's where we're heading. Some fun stuff. So I'm glad you like it, and thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to pull off stream, go get some lunch, and I'll be back on Discord afterwards, so you can catch me anytime. But I really appreciate you subscribing. That was awesome, and I definitely will see you again soon. I stream often enough. I'll be doing more and more now that I'm back to the coding side. I had to set up a lot of stuff on the server side, so I've been doing that lately, and now most of it's in place. So back to streaming and getting as much of this done as I can. So awesome. Love to see you on Discord. Sounds great. And like I said, I'll since I know you're working with Blender and you're creating objects and stuff and working with us, once you get over there, I'll send you a second invite with the developers group, so that you can kind of ask questions over there, and you can also share what you're working on, or even it's higher priority if you ask for things. So I'll make sure you're taken care of. Okay. Thanks a lot for watching, and I really do appreciate it. And I'll see you on Discord.